The landscape leaves 4 remaining races until the chase for the championship begins. And it's here where the beautifully tall standing pagoda opens its arms to welcome in the field for a chance to run at the Brickyard and try and get a race win to solidify more momentum heading into the back end of this regular season. Welcome to the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where tonight we are glad to bring you coverage of this next round of the 2026 Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season on the KBueno Racing Network and the Brickyard 312 from Indy. Glad to have you joining us for, once again, another thrilling installment in this 2026 season as we march closer to the journey to the title, where the drivers, 12 of them, will advance later on after Richmond. Still have to work through Indianapolis first in order to get there. Right here in the broadcast booth here from Indianapolis, I am Kenneth Bueno, and after a whirlwind of emotions and plenty of different storylines emerging, a surprise winner out west in wine country at the Sonoma Raceway for the Grand Prix at Sears Point. But tonight, we ring in one of the most famed tracks in all of history, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the racing capital of the world, for this next round. A pivotal one that's with cash prizes on the line, and of course a race victory and momentum as this regular season comes to a close. We have dialed in almost 90% of this Droppin the Hammah Cup Series 2026 schedule, and it is live from Indianapolis, where will be our first and only trip to this 2.5-mile rectangle out in Speedway, Indiana, New Hampshire, Nashville, and Richmond. After tonight, only 3 races remain before the 12 drivers advance, make their way to the chase for the championship that begins in Joliet, Illinois at Chicagoland Speedway, and then of course trying to make it to the championship finale with enough points in the bank to be able to secure a Season 2 title in the Queen City at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the longest race we will have all year long. But it's one of the longest races of the season, 125 laps here tonight from this 2.5-miler here in Indiana. And of course, last season, plenty of fireworks when we were here last. This season might be very much no different in that sense after a lot of things have occurred through the course of this season. Plenty of new winners, of course, dominating storylines, a change in the championship lead. We'll tell you all about that and more in this coverage before we start, with about 5.5 minutes to go until the drivers take the grid and the green flag for this Brickyard 312. But let's rewind the clock, give you a bit of the refresher as to what occurred just last week at the Sonoma Raceway in the Grand Prix at Sears Point, and things started off quite in a bizarre way. Yellow flag was thrown on lap number 1 before the field had come around to the start-finish line. Cedric Cutter wheel spin on the opening jump, said he felt pretty stupid about that in the moment. Got Charles Van Schaik and a few others that hit pit road for damage repair. Then the actual green flag. Category 5 Esports' Zachary Hall making his first points-paying start since the Homestead of Miami finale and first start this season. Since the All-Star race at Charlotte Motor Speedway, there was Justin Erb going around at the exit of 3A, and some great battles along the field. Warren Kyle Keith, plenty of raw pace in the opening sector of the event. Here he was diving to the inside of 7A on Steven Stampian, the driver who held second place for a good portion of that opening run. Of course, the rest of the race went green, lower turnout, so instead of 60 laps, we ran 50, but still had some storylines along the way. After Hunter's mistake on lap number 1, he ends up regaining all of that time from 10th to a high of 2nd place at the end of this race, and that pass on Steven Stampian in the hairpin was one of those few to solidify him a points-paying position. Then the field came on pit road a little past halfway in that 50-lap race. Zachary Hall coming in earlier. He had at least a 15-second lead entering the green flag pit stop scenario. Warren Kyle Keith, among others, that eventually made their stop on pit road, but it was really no match for Zachary Hall, the driver in the number 33, getting his first win of Season 2 and first Droppin the Hammah Cup Series win since his Homestead Miami title back in Season 1. Boy, it's been a while since we've called Zachary Hall a points-paying race winner. Again, he was part of the All-Star race at Charlotte, but this is his only so far appearance as a points-paying driver. Told us in the victory lane at Sears Point that he was very excited for this Indianapolis Motor Speedway race, where he finished in the top 3, so looking for a chance to possibly solidify a chance at another race victory and putting himself in contention to spoil the party just a little bit before the chase begins. So after that win, a bit of a spoiler there, but with Cedric Hunter's 2nd place finish, the first ever 1-2 finish for Category 5 Esports, now the 45 sits at the top of the board by a larger margin. It is now 8 points separating Hunter at the top of the field and Brandon Banks, who had been the points leader for practically the entire season until the most recent race, and the last 2 races where Hunter has effectively stepped up as the championship favorite. Charles Van Schaik taking over 3rd, and of course, lots of changes through the top 12 because of many drivers missing out at Sonoma Raceway last Sunday. So because of that, many of those jump higher. Garrett Walden, you'll note, he was 3rd in standings entering Sonoma. He's now bumped all the way back to 7th with all of those points that he did not gain as a result of not being there at Sonoma. Now the cut line sits at just 10 points separating Chuck Stevens, who was at the cut line in that very same spot last Sunday, and now Jaden Porter, the Louisville, Kentucky native who stood up as possibly one of the favorites for the championship very early on in the season, now eventually has turned sour as the 82 car now has to fight for his life. And as we see it right now at Indianapolis, not scheduled to be a part of the running order here in this Droppin the Hammah Cup Series field tonight, so it may be a further drop-off. And then it's just a big question mark. Who can be that final driver into the top 12? Still a lot of questions we have yet to answer even before Richmond comes up in our schedule. We still have to finalize these rest few races and possibly see if that becomes more of a confirmed storyline for one driver to be in and some drivers to be out, or if it's going to be up in the air until that checkered flag flies in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we talk about points all season long, how that has changed with the playoffs being in last season and now this chase for the championship cup in 2026. But a new thing has emerged in the middle of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season, the in-season challenge, and our bracket-minded brains are still focused on what is now the quarterfinals of this in-season challenge. Of course, Richmond in the regular season finale will not only crown 12 drivers the eligible ticket into the chase, it'll crown $100 richer to a single driver and $50 to the second place driver in it all. So we've got drivers that made it out of the group. The 3 best pointed drivers after Daytona and Sonoma weaved their way on to round 2, and now this 3-way group, 4 of them in each side of the bracket, of course, will make their way through Indianapolis tonight and New Hampshire. The best pointed driver, the driver with the highest points payout over these 2 races from tonight and next Sunday, will be crowned a gifted spot into the semifinals, where 4 drivers will go head-to-head before we eventually dwindle it down to 2 drivers that go back-to-back and head-to-head at Richmond for the crown. The $100, and of course the second place driver with $50. Just a way to not only entice this regular season in which we've seen plenty of drivers bounce back and forth through the points paying order, just give them a little bit more incentive to try and chase for the cash in this Droppin the Hammah Cup Series. So it's been fun to watch over the course of the season and over the first 2 races of that in-season tournament. Now through this tournament, going through Indianapolis and New Hampshire, 2 very different venues, might I say. It's going to be fun to watch as those drivers, now 12 of them rather, that are going to be moving on and are going to try to face off each other for one driver to advance out of each respective group. So we visit Indianapolis Motor Speedway for just the 2nd time in series history. Stephen Maggio won this race back in season 1, but what an esteemed venue this is. Speedway, Indiana, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has hosted the Brickyard 400, the Indianapolis 500, many high-profile, prestigious races across many different international and national series. This is the place to be, and probably one of the most prestigious venues to win in stock car racing, other than the Daytona International Speedway or Darlington Raceway out in South Carolina. 2.5 miles, 4.023 kilometers, 9.2 degrees of banking in all 4 corners, meaning it's pretty shallow down there in each of the Speedway's corners. And that means although we do have plenty of pace carrying down the long straightaways, have to back it up, get through the short chutes, and make sure you not only get a good handling race car on speed, but also make sure the tires last you the entire run. So a lap around Indianapolis is very much different than it is in the usual car you see on this 2.5 mile rectangle, with the Indy car not going 235 miles an hour, but still plenty fast entering turn 1. Hopping on the brakes, a lot of drivers you'll see bounce down into 4th gear before taking it to the white line, try to carry momentum off of the short chute, bring it to the wall, and then just blip the throttle just a little bit, try and ease off of it before getting back into the gas at the exit of turn 2. We've seen plenty of times across the track's history, turn 2 a very treacherous corner, and then you blast down this long back straightaway. We've seen a lot of drivers make daring 2 and 3 wide moves, plenty of snake trailing to avoid the draft that you get on other drivers, and then immediately back on the brakes. Try to hook it as low as you can without getting to the curb, cook up right on the exit of the short chute, and then back underneath. A lot of drivers hit the outside wall off of turn 4 to gain as much speed as possible. It kills them off of the run, and the right front tire can easily start squealing, but we may see the drivers do those mistakes. Some drivers nail it perfectly. That's a lap here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where, of course, the drivers will do battle here tonight. So the drivers have run behind the iRacing official pace car. They are ready to go, and so are we on the KBueno Racing Network for this next race of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season in 2026 and the Brickyard 312. Let's bring you tonight's starting grid from Indianapolis, who are on the pole is the 6-time race winner this season and the driver who finished runner-up back at Sonoma last Sunday. Cedric Hunter going to try to go for a 7th race victory of the season, and the points leader lines up a 51.516 to be the first driver to see the green flag tonight. Jesse Whittington on the Cypress Racing Academy number 94 Chevrolet has had a very strong back end of the regular season. We'll see what he can do from the outside of row number 1. Alex Muscarello, the winner from Daytona not too long ago, tries to go for a 2nd victory in the series from 3rd place, with Charles Van Schaik now 3rd, the highest running rookie in the point standings as it goes. The 23 car and his Ford Mustang Dark Horse will start tonight on the outside of row number 2 in position number 4. Steven Stepien lines up a 51.701 to be the last driver inside the top 5 from row 3. And Zach Wilson, the number 60 Chevrolet, the newly minted Cypress Racing Academy teammate, is going to be in 6th place to start. Warren Kyle Keith and Brandon Banks, the 24 and the 5, 7th and 8th as we get to the green flag tonight, while Stephen Harlow rejoins the series after missing at Sonoma, and Garrett Walden trying to avenge some of the points positions lost after Sonoma just last Sunday. He's the last driver inside tonight's top 10. Richard Swavely and Justin Erb share row number 6 and 11th and 12th, while Chuck Stevens, the last driver out, or the first driver out as far as the point standings goes. He and Daniel Holtcroft will line the inside and outside of row number 7 back to 14th. Inside top 15 is the 12 machine of James Kunkel, Justin Hendry behind, David Duran, Alex Huffman not to set qualifying times, with Brad Fulham and Kevin Roy rounding out our 20-car field here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a mostly cloudy day, but the drivers are hoping that the sun shines on one driver as the field urges closer to the end of this regular season, and it's the most dominant driver of the campaign so far who will bring us to the green flag alongside the rookie standout of Jesse Whittington. Let's go racing at Indianapolis. And through lap number 1, Jesse Whittington breaks free to be the race leader at the end of the first lap. Got around the high side of Cedric Hunter, made the move, and no proper response from the Canadian brings the 94 car to a lap lead to start this Brickyard 312 from Indianapolis. As the rest of the field cycles through in the first few corners, Alex Muscarello has made his way into 3rd, Charles Van Schaik in a 4th. And the battle for that 4th spot continues on with Steven Stepien making his car to the inside. The red, white, and blue Bass Pro Shops Club Chevrolet could have helped down the back straightaway. Zach Wilson, here the inside comes the 24 machine of Warren Kyle Keith, making it just about 3 wide. As they come to turn 3, Van Schaik still under more pressure as they come back around the short chute. El Spinner, that's the 2nd place car. Pole sitter Cedric Hunter is around as they come off to turn 3. The whole field gets by. And although an unscathed Hunter survives the 2nd lap scuffle, already trouble once again at the jump in back-to-back weeks for the most dominant driver of the year. And that car went around on its lonesome, it appears, in turns 3 and 4 as he was trying to get back to the bumper of Jesse Whittington. You saw the 3-wide action that we were touching upon in the top 5, but Hunter just wheezing through turn 3. Car stepped out from underneath him and around the rim. Nothing that he could do to get out of the throttle and get that car back righted. The whole field does a great job at escaping the mayhem. Inside and outside, everybody went to avoid getting into the 45 car, but Hunter already with a very uncharacteristic mistake on the first 2 laps of this race from the Brickyard, and almost very similar to the wheel spin he encountered on the opening lap at Sonoma. Here's the onboard look from Hunter. Just point blank lost the car at the exit of turn 3. And boy, how close Zach Wilson got to getting into the side and the front end of the 45 machine, but luckily the whole field gets away without getting any sort of contact on the 45. And so with that, we're going to be under the yellow flag for the first time tonight. Going to be back-to-back races where we are at least under the yellow by lap number 2 of what is this 125 lap affair from the Brickyard. Let's get a look at our SKMcars.com race analysis as some of the field enters pit road. Van Schaik and Keith among those that pit early. 125 laps from the Brickyard. A very long race, 312.5 miles with 502.87 kilometers on tap. Our SKMcars.com race analysis showing us one of the longer races of the season. Of course, we had our Charlotte 600K earlier on this season at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And although we've had 312-mile races before, our Daytona race equated to 312 miles. Still a rather lengthy Daytona race, and one that was caution-free from lap 1 until the very end. Obviously very different in the early goings here at Indianapolis, and already back through our first caution flag of the night. So while Hunter gives away the track position, of course, shot tires after that opening spill in turn 3. He'll be back out on the field. James Kunkel and a few others have hit pit road for the opening stretch of strategy. Of course, fuel going to be possibly a concern here. Many of these drivers in it to just top off and not care too much about how much they'll lose, especially here early on, knowing this is not too big of a field at around 19 cars. We did get word that Alex Huffman was not able to make it to the green flag tonight, so although he did register for the session and did not put in a time in qualifying, was shown at the running order on the grid, he is not going to be here for tonight's race. So it's really just a matter of 19 cars that'll settle this thing out and try and run for the race victory, which is something that Whittington has not been able to achieve in his short but very successful Droppin the Hammah Cup Series campaign. So far, this driver here for Cypress Racing Academy has gained a spot in practically every single race of his series career in 2026. Of course, things have changed a little bit differently ever since the back end of the regular season, where he had back-to-back second-place finishes and then just unfortunately could not keep up any movement forward to be able to get his first career win. Still, what has been a momentous back end of this campaign for car number 94, and Whittington hoping that tonight could be his breakthrough moment for what could be his first career victory. A driver who is already practically solidifying his place in the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series chase, when many weeks ago he was on the outskirts. He was a driver that was right on the thick of things in the bubble through the top 12. And after plenty of fantastic top 10 and top 5 runs, Whittington has cemented a spot in the chase, albeit that nothing goes wrong for the next few races. Indianapolis is a track that Whittington hopes can be that moment to shine, just like it was for the driver who's going to be on the inside of him for row number 1 on this first green flag restart of the night of Alex Muscarella, that 48 car on the inside who finally broke free after many, many months and years of waiting for a Droppin the Hammah Cup Series victory. Alex Muscarella finally got one at Daytona in the Firecracker 312, and so potentially baton can be handed over to the Cypress Racing Academy car, who has been stellar this year. He'll have help from Zach Wilson at the exit of row number 1. And Steven Stemping going to be the inside trying to help what is his Droppin the Hammah teammate in the 48 of Alex Muscarella. Those are 3 teammates lined up on the inside, all Chevrolets, the 48, the 88, and the 6. Stephen Harlow, Steven Stemping, and Alex Muscarella. Those 3 cars all running together. And obviously plenty of them that missed out at the road course at Sonoma last Sunday. Many of them bracing the storm literally at the Echo Park Speedway in Hampton, Georgia, watching the NASCAR Cup Series go on in racing. But now that they're in North Wilkesboro tonight for the first Cup Series points-paying race in North Wilkesboro in a very long time, many of the drivers are here this evening to enjoy the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series festivities at Indianapolis. So lights are off from the iRacing official pace car. Will go green on the first restart of the night at lap number 6 after Cedric Hunter spun around off the exit at turn 3, created the first yellow. No other drivers were involved. However, there were at least 5 cars, everybody 13th on back. Make that 6 machines that visited pit road for a top off on fuel or other types of service. Second time that the pace car faces the interior of pit road, where Whittington and Muscarella, a pair of bow tie Chevrolets, will bring the field back to the restart zone to see the green flag for the second time tonight. Back in the air from Indianapolis in this Brickyard 312, and a lovely start from Whittington gets him without any pressure to turn one. Wilson tries to shut the angle down on Muscarella. The Chevrolets run side by side. Wilson breaks through to second. What an opening drive by Whittington, clears by a few car lengths. His teammate follows right in the back pocket. Wilson trying to make sure he can shut down any advantage from anyone third on back. Side by side behind them, Chuck Stevens and a few others engaging in battle. That's right at the edge of the top 10, where Daniel Holtzcroft sits just around there in 10th. Here comes Stevens to the inside, makes the pass for position, while Hunter, that bright pink Toyota Camry, tries to regain all of the track position lost. Once again, another night in which Hunter has to rally from behind after lap number 2. We mentioned at Sonoma, he came down pit road after wheel spin on the opening lap, forced him some damage and a spin in front of the field in what was a very shallow field at that time, but still had some damage on his car, came down pit road, rallied under green from 10th all the way to second place at the end of that race, right behind his teammate Zachary Hall, who was not here tonight, although he made the impression that he was going to be here at this Indianapolis race. He is not. Most likely probably helping Hunter try and get to victory lane, like he told us in the win at Sonoma, the Grand Prix at Sears Point. He wants to get his teammate a championship and continue what has so far been a team-dominant run through seasons 1 and 2. Remember, Chuck Stevens in the top 10 for the first time tonight. He is that first driver out of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series chase on points. Now, of course, it is a much easier battle. Jaden Porter is not here tonight. He's the driver that is last in to the chase as it sees. But the 13th driver in points, simrapmarket.com, number 84, does a good job moving up the field so far as we continue green through this first, hopefully what could be a very long green flag run tonight. So it's Whittington, Wilson, Stempian, Muscarella, and Brandon Banks that currently occupy the top 5. There is that red, white, and blue Valvoline Chevrolet of Banks. Banks, the former points leader of tonight and the season overall. One of the most consistent drivers still in his back pocket, of course. A good finish at Sonoma Raceway, but seeing his competitor Cedric Hunter run up in the runner-up spot at the checkered flag, not the best of news for the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina native, who, of course, is trying to manage that top spot. But Banks' only one win this season came at Daytona to begin the year. He has yet to achieve victory lane since, although he's had plenty of fast race cars, is considered one of the best long-run drivers of the entire series. We've seen that plenty at the intermediate tracks this season. Indianapolis can be very much no different for the driver of the 5 car as he tries to etch his way back into momentous swing to get around Cedric Hunter in this battle for the points lead at the top of the total poll. Banks, of course, having great runs and still within a marginable distance at around 8 points that separate Hunter and Banks for their front spot in the championship run as it goes to the late end of the regular season. So as Whittington continues to lead these first now 10 laps that are going to be complete in a little bit here from Indianapolis, we want to remind you why there are different front windshield banners and colors across some of the cars here tonight. That because this evening's Brickyard 312 is part of the Noble 5 running of this 2026 season for the field. So this is not going to be just a regular, ordinary race for the red bannered car who visits victory lane. They represent 5 drivers that qualified in from the last Noble 5 race of the season. They are eligible for a cash prize if they visit Dropping the Hammah victory lane tonight. So those 5 drivers, of course, Cedric Hunter being one of them, your race leader, Whittington another one, Jaden Porter, Brandon Banks, and Richard Swavely. But of course, since Porter is not here tonight from Indianapolis, that means only 4 drivers are going to be eligible for the cash prize. Now, the rule is that you do get the cash if you win the race. So if you do not finish in the top spot, you do not visit victory lane, it's all null and void. That cash is going to be just forwarded to the next race of the Noble 5 campaign. And so Indianapolis will be very important, not only for the momentum of the drivers entering the late end of the regular season, but of course, get a little bit of cash prizes in there as well. And you couple that with the in-season challenge that is currently underway for the rest of the field. Indianapolis and New Hampshire, part of this quarterfinal round, in which many of the Noble 5 drivers are a part of and have moved on in that quarterfinal round. It's going to be a little spicy to see what they are willing and not willing to do in order to get the cash prize. It will be $100 to the winner, awarded at Richmond. That $50 is immediately rewarded if you are able to find victory lane here tonight. Zach Wilson has kept pace with his teammate, those two putting similar lap times around 52 flats. They are still the fastest cars on the speedway. Wilson is now the fastest machine at a 52.029. And we've also talked about how Indianapolis is such a unique venue in the way it drives, just because of that little banking that's all across, only 9.2 degrees. So you really just don't have a lot of support. So you have to slow these cars down, and we've noted, especially under duress, under these long runs here at Indy, that while it becomes increasingly hard to pass with the dirty air that comes up from the wakes of cars in front, that right front tire usually is the first one to go away. Now, there has been plenty of tries by the Droppin the Hammah admin team to manipulate the setups, try to manipulate the power output to create better racing. They've been trying that at the super speedways. They experimented it with a ton at Charlotte Motor Speedway through the All-Star Weekend, and of course through the Coca-Cola 600K that occurred earlier on this season. And even then, through the intermediate tracks, Michigan was one of them, and several other venues where 110% power has been implemented, so you could add power to these NASCAR Cup Series cars. That equates to 737 horsepower. But the admins hoping that tonight is going to be a very favorable condition for the drivers in the field to get a look on board with our Charlie Byer photography onboard camera and Steven Stepien, the Bethune, Massachusetts native, as he runs in third. The admins, including Stepien, have experimented a ton with the setup of this car. They have given a custom setup to the field for tonight's race specifically, and have bumped up the power by only 20 horsepower. They've experienced 90%, 100%, 110, and everything in between. All of them, of course, the goal to try and make these cars a little more racy, if you will, make them more competitive out there on the racetrack and more fun to drive. That's been a primary complaint of the driver base. They just don't like the way this car feels. And of course, at tracks like Indianapolis, it has been notoriously known under this next-gen era with the aero wash and all of the aerodynamic models and tire models applied to this next-gen machine. It is very hard to pass at the Brickyard. It's usually a single groove racetrack. You can only, in some cases, make use of that second higher lane, which you watch Zach Wilson try to approach here in turns 3 and 4. But of course, Droppin the Hammah Cup Series and the admins trying their very best to make these cars as fun to drive as possible given the circumstances. And if that means bumping the power up, if that means taking the power away and manipulating the setup a little bit, then so be it. And that's part of that experiment that's still ongoing through the season here in Indianapolis tonight. Great fight for 14 between two drivers who are very much rookies in this series and still trying to make a name for themselves. And what a momentous drive through the point standings for Charles Van Schaik, the GOAT Racing diecast number 23. Of course, great finishes over the last few. Sonoma on strategy didn't end up going his way, but the upper hand he has on many of the other rookie drivers in the field is that he was there at Sonoma last Sunday and is here tonight at Indianapolis. So plenty of points that he gained, while drivers like David Duran was not in attendance at Sears Point and the road course in Sonoma County. So he will have to really just make up all the ground lost figuratively and literally as he's trying to weave his way through 14th, while Warren Kyle Keith trying to make a move underneath the 4 machine. That's the Monster Energy Ford Mustang of Daniel Holdcroft. Inside goes Keith, and the driver who finished third in Sonoma last Sunday, trying to continue a consistent run-up through this run of the regular season and try to grab another good points-paying finish. So he's up to 12th place. And remember, we talked about drivers that struggled on the opening green flag run. That, of course, being Cedric Hunter, spinning on lap number 2 to bring out the yellow. He and many other drivers did hit pit road, but Hunter has now gained up ground to be in 9th position. Now working on what could be the next car on the chopping block for 8th place. That's the Walmart Chevrolet of Garrett Walden. So while Hunter on the back foot for the 2nd week in a row has done a great job of keeping that momentum high and not really fazed by the lackluster start. The Canadian makes a move on the inside of Garrett Walden. This ongoing battle for 8th place travels all the way to the front straightaway. Garrett Walden, of course, missing the action at Sonoma Raceway last weekend, and bumping him all the way down to 7th in the driver's standings, was the highest points paid rookie over the course of the season. Very impressive start for Cypress Racing Academy, who could get all of their cars in the postseason, other than Zach Wilson, who's the newest entry into that group. But for all the drivers who started the season a part of that team and have since represented the team through the regular season, Walden, Whittington, and Stevens, they have a possibility of pointing all of those cars, all their Chevrolets, into the top 12. Of course, a little bit sketchy knowing that Whittington gained points, Walden fell back a ton, Stevens is on the cut line entering tonight's race. There is a lot that could very much change, not only here tonight in Indy through the next portion of the event, but through the next regular season affairs moving into Richmond and Virginia. Obviously, drivers that could make a factor move up to the field. Caution flag comes out. Brad Fulham is the driver in trouble. And our second yellow flag once again raises. It's Brad Fulham in the 19 towing to pit road. And our second yellow flies at 18 laps put in the books. Get a look at what occurred to Brad Fulham, and almost appears to be the same fault of Cedric Hunter at the start of this race, where turn 3 seemed to be a trouble spot. Yep, car got loose at the exit of 3, tried to save it, did a good job of keeping it straight, and then just on the crest of the grass, went around on Justin Hendry, one of those drivers that was trying to weave on by, and got a piece of the outside wall. It looks like Hendry will be the driver that does pick up some damage at the end of this, and the onboard with Brad Fulham shows the rest of the story. It looks like one of those phenomenons with the next-gen car where you could save it at first, and then the car just immediately unravels from beneath your fingertips, even when the car is running straight. Weight shifts when you lose sight of the throttle pedal, and the car immediately just whips around. So it's going to be a tough route back, as the 19 of Brad Fulham did tow to pit road, so that is at least a bit of time spent towing the car back there. And then, of course, any service or repairs and any other tire or fuel changes that the 19 of Fulham will have. So through our longest green flag run of the night, that lasted about 14 laps in total, the field most likely going to look to pit road to try and enable one of their few tire sets that they do have available here tonight. Trying to make sure that they are going to be good until the end. Now, Indianapolis is known very much for its strategy affairs when this thing goes green. And knowing that this is one of those tracks, kind of like Pocono, where you can easily try very different strategies, and many of them are eager to save a ton of fuel, even in the middle of green flag runs. Indianapolis 500s have come down a pure strategy on that front. So the drivers, of course, in a wholesome manner, will come down to the pit lane to try and get service for the first time tonight. Wholesale look for the entire field. Whittington leads them on in. He's been the dominant car of the night. He has led every single lap from the start of it all. His teammate Zach Wilson runs behind. He's been one of the faster cars on the racetrack, and the two teammates lead them in and out of pit road as they come back to turn 1. Pace car leaves them all behind. Everyone comes in, 4 fresh tires and some fuel. The Goodyear Eagles slapping new on either side of these next-gen Cup cars. Whittington is up and away on his 4-tire stop. It's a quick getaway for many drivers in the field. Whittington goes through, and at the line, just by a nose, Whittington makes his way on through. What a drive for both of those cars, and what a race off the pit lane. 10.1 second stop for Whittington, 10.2 for Zach Wilson, but very quick 4-tire stop and getting the splash of fuel along the way. So we'll be back under green flag in just a moment as Stepien, Keith, and Erb round out the rest of the running top 5. Now, if you looked at those pit stops under yellow and wondered that it seems a little quick, that's because it is actually faster than what we've been accustomed to seeing on iRacing for such a long while. iRacing, in their most recent patch update, giving these next-gen cars the realistic treatment on pit road as well as on the track. So now you'll end up with the 9 to 10 second 4-tire pit stops that the teams have been able to achieve in real life on Sundays every week. That's now replicated here on iRacing. So Gone are the ideas of 14 and 15 second normal pit stops, and now the norm has crunched down to 9 and 10 seconds, so that's where the field has come through. Although we did see one driver at least, Warren Kyle Keith, take a shorter pit stop than others. It was a 6.1 second entry and exit off of his pit box, so we can only imagine that Keith tried to take some 2 fresh Goodyear Eagles or none to gain some of that track position, but Keith hoping that his car can be freed up if he takes those 2 tires. And Justin Erb right behind in the 20 machine has gained track position. He's up into the top 5 for the first time tonight. So as we're just ready to go here from the Brickyard 312, the onboard look from Stephen Harlow, driver who has come back into this field after missing out at Sonoma like many other drivers did. But of course back in this field, going to restart this one from the outside of row number 3. Harlow, like many others, still searching for career win number 1. He's been close on several occasions and has been one of the better drivers on these intermediate style of racetracks, especially when he's hooked up with his teammates. It is 2 Droppin the Hammah Chevrolets that are in the top 5 once we go back to green flag action, rather top 6, as Stepien runs this one in that 3rd place position. Jesse Whittington and Zach Wilson, the 2 teammates, will share the front row, and Whittington once again will choose the outside line. It's the line that worked out for him on the start of this race against Cedric Hunter, and it looks like he'll try to use it again off the jump in this restart zone. No one has been able to lead a lap other than car number 94 tonight. He has been flawless through the first 21, and as we get our 2nd green flag restart of this night on lap 22, we'll see if this blossoms into another long green flag run, and an Oval 5 contender in Whittington trying to get the cash prize here tonight from the Brickyard. Pace car will make the entryway into pit road. Our 2nd green flag restart of the night will come at the hands of the 2 teammates. Whittington and Wilson wait patiently for the restart zone. Warren Kyle Keith eager to give the push. Whittington fires away, back under green from the Brickyard. Once again, another flawless restart from the 2 teammates. It's a battle ensuing behind them. Stepien washes way high in 3, trying to deal dirty air, and he's sideways off the short chute, nearly getting into his teammate. 3 wide as they come across to turn 4. Harlow in the middle of the microwave as Erb, Hunter, Keith, and many others scramble for position on the front straightaway to turn 1. What an opening statement from Warren Kyle Keith. Switches position to the inside. And now Hunter continues his rally back through the field, back into a race-high 5th. As the field got all up in arms for the 3rd place position, Stepien held on by the skin of his teeth. Sideways in turn 3, and now Keith tries to attempt the battle while Hunter stabilizes right behind him. Turn 3 has been the trouble spot tonight. It has been the place over the course of the race where the drivers have found some trouble. And we've seen again in Indianapolis, most of the time the right front tire is the one that goes away first, but it looks like the right rear in this brand new setup with 20 added horsepower and a custom setup underneath these cars in the garage. It has played for a race that has turned out much more freeing than a lot of drivers possibly anticipated. Hunter, just a wiggle there off of turn number 3, or rather turn 1, but he's back in action. He's back in the top 4 for the first time since the opening lap of the race. And Keith has to try and fire back a response while Stepien has enjoyed the company or rather the lack of, as he's pulled away by the tune of a few car lengths, while Zach Wilson falls back 3/10 of the race leader in Whittington, commands this field as they come back around to lap 25, hitting the outside wall, a kiss from Warren Kyle Keith, and Stephen Harlow, the DTH Chevrolet, going to try to make an effort at it all. But what a comeback drive from this driver right here in Cedric Hunter. So far, a man not to be denied in 2026. Of course, a 6-time race winner. He's been on rails since the start of the year, and now the brand new points leader is going to chase down the 88 car just like he did in the winning laps at Sonoma, under strategy to put himself in a spot to finish right behind his teammate and continue what has so far been such a momentous run for the Canadian, who will try to make it back-to-back titles for that Category 5 esports team, while Steven Stepien, a driver who finished 4th at Sonoma, trying to go for what is his 4th top 5 finish in his last 5 races, 15th. Although he captured pole at Daytona, but ever since then and around that, he's captured top 5 runs. Tonight could very much be no different at a venue that Stepien does find very dear to his heart, and he'll find a venue very dear to his heart in the next week at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, a track that he considers his home and a track that he loves to run, as Whittington continues to command this field through 26 completed green flag laps here in the Brickyard 312. And rookies inside this top 11. Great battle for that 11th spot. Van Schaik, Chuck Stevens, Garrett Walden. 3 drivers that have been very notorious for running at the front of this field and doing whatever it can to spice up the mid-pack battles if they are a part of it. And the 12th and 11th place cars will go head-to-head. Walden, of course, back in it, and we mentioned the drop-off in points. But this Walmart Chevrolet has been pretty solid on these intermediate tracks. And, of course, you look at the overall experience. Drivers do have runs here at Indianapolis, whether it be in an official capacity or in other leagues. But, of course, it's very different from when you run a league at a certain track versus when you run a league, a different one, at the same track, but with a brand new setup, different power output, and of course a different caliber of drivers. We've talked about on different leagues broadcasted on the KBueno Racing Network as we ride with the Charlie Bauer photography onboard camera on Garrett Walden as Van Schaik makes a move to the inside. How different leagues, the same drivers will react differently. They'll play their styles of driving in different ways than they would otherwise. That's obviously just because of the way that series unfold and the different levels of competition. One of those famous stories is Stephen Maggio, a driver who has dominated the ranks in 4-wide, but tells us that in the SAC Cup Series that we've broadcasted on Thursday nights that he doesn't feel as strong. He feels that it's the most competitive NASCAR league that he's run on iRacing. He has taken his hand here at the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series. He's the former winner here at Indianapolis. You haven't seen Maggio since in competition for the running. However, just a prime example of what different drivers will do with different leagues. Even if it's at the very same venue, things will change drastically. Van Schaik still locked in a side-by-side battle off of turn 2 with Garrett Walden. These 2 cars running almost a full lap side-by-side and door-to-door. 2 fighting for as many points as they can muster at the back end of the regular season. Van Schaik strikes again, bit of contact on the back straightaway. Walden fights back from the second shelf. Van Schaik cannot fire off quickly enough. He gets the nose out in front to turn 4. Walden tries to fade high and cross over, but it is not enough. Van Schaik making a move into the top 11. Field has single filed out, only 4 car lengths separating the second place car Wilson and the race leader in Jesse Whittington, while we watch this close-knit battle for 6th place on the racetrack. Stephen Harlow right in front of a pretty lengthy line of cars. Brandon Banks on the background, so is Alex Muscarella, with the driver in focus, the Husky Home Depot Ford Mustang dark horse of Justin Erb. Top 10s in 2 of his last 3 races, but a 21st place finish after some poor luck at the World Center of Racing in Daytona has bounced him out of potential competition. He's one of those drivers that is trying to chase a position in the top 12. He had been hanging around the cut line for a little while now through this regular season, but the SKM Ford Mustang, after a great finish at Sonoma, he started 7th and finished there. We saw him spinning at the exit of one of the corners in the back end of the course very early on, but recovered well part of some of the best battles we saw all race long at the road course in wine country. Justin Erb here trying to catch slowly Stephen Harlow. Those two only separated by 0.3 of a second on the last lap put on the board. 52.1 for Harlow, a 52.432 for the driver of the 20 machine. So there still has to be work done for Erb if he wants to make sure he can gather up a run good enough to make up another spot and regain momentum and try to stab a spot at the top 5 for the first time all night long after a relatively quick pit stop. Here is Steven Stepien finally starting to make an effort on Zach Wilson, a driver who did put on some pressure for Jesse Whittington in the opening run of the race after Hunter's spin and after taking second place, but did fall back a bit. Stepien could not catch up in enough time before that yellow came out, but now it's the 88 car applying the pressure on the rear end of the 60 machine for Cypress Racing Academy and trying to split up the teammate tango at the front of the field, the onboard with Wilson. Wilson entering tonight just his third, dropping the Hammah Cup Series start, made his first appearance at Daytona in a bright red Coca-Cola Ford Mustang Dark Horse before the drivers at Cypress Racing Academy said join on in the team. So Wilson joined, and the North Carolina native is right here in the mix of it all, still chasing career win number 1, and a driver that was pretty successful in the Sunoco Cup Series days in the 2020s in the Next Gen era, in that league owned by Dakota Curtis. But in the Revival, it's the first time that we see Wilson in any sort of full-time capacity. Him and Justin Hendry joining midway through the regular campaign, so it's a big on welcome for the 60 and the 85, and Wilson and Hendry, driver who finished in 6th in his first ever start. It was a top 10, then 11th place at Sonoma Raceway despite qualifying 2nd after lagging out of the affair very early on. It was just a heartbreaking effort for Wilson there on a race that could have easily been a top 3 run and maybe even a run for the win. But Wilson nonetheless has brushed off the negativity from last Sunday and is back in it tonight, but still going mano-a-mano. 52.2s across the board for those drivers in the top 3. Fastest out of them all right now in the top 5. The man right behind them in the 45 of Cedric Hunter. Well, watch this 3-way fight for what is 2nd place on the racetrack. Steven Stepien, a man who is, again, trying to get back into winning ways. Somebody who has already won a pair of times this season. His last one coming, though, all the way back in mid-April of this year in a flag-to-flag race in Southern California at the Auto Club Speedway. So safe to say it's been a little while since we've seen Stepien achieve a win here in this series. Nonetheless, still one of those favorites to go at it for the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series title once the chase begins at Chicagoland later on this season. And again, someone who a win could very much vault him up the confidence meter, and a driver that can easily catch fire, especially right before his hometown track and a venue that he loves very much dearly in Loudon, New Hampshire, and New Hampshire Motor Speedway up in Waco. So Stepien hoping that he can break free, try and get by Wilson, and those two not too far away in a drift from Jesse Whittington, only 0.6 of a second that have separated those two cars. But like we mentioned, the top 5 have put in relatively similar laps. In fact, they are all on the same shelf with each other. 52.1s, apart from just a 52.251 set by Stepien the last lap by, but he has a head of steam in turn 3, tries to arc the inside. Owen Wilson exit turn 4, backed up right before he can get a proper nose underneath. Now a crossover by Hunter, swinging down low in the battle for 3rd to turn 1. And now here comes Stepien. Fire back to the inside, this time on the other end of the speedway. Turn 2, nose out in front. Hunter fights back, plants the throttle, while Warren Kyle Keith watches in the background eagerly, hoping he can take a 2-for-1 if these two get into each other. Treacherous point of the racetrack next. Turn 3, Hunter noses ahead, shuts the door on Stepien. Nowhere for Stepien to go, washes up the track. So does Hunter, loses speed, scrubs it off, and here comes Stepien, run up to the inside. What a battle this is for 3rd off of turn 4. And it is not done yet. again, that red banner, 45, Hunter trying to win this race to secure the cash prize on the No Bull 5 running tonight. But it's been hard to get around the driver of the 88 as these two have dealt blows back and forth. Here comes Hunter again. To the inside, battle for third. Wilson has emerged away from the two drivers. And Hunter dives in turn 3, tries to not make the same mistake he achieved there off turn 3 the last time by. Got very squirrely. Stepien this time stabilizes, and so does Hunter. But they have slowly invited two drivers, Warren Kyle Keith and Stephen Harlow, to the party. So not only do the Ford Mustang and the Chevrolet get to indulge in a good battle right in front of them, got the popcorn in the front seat, but they could also engage in battle for what could be the last spot entering the top 5. Heap of run by Stephen Harlow, shut down in turn 1 by Keith. Made sure he had that move stabilized to the inside. Defensive approach by Warren Kyle Keith. And we know this driver out of St. Augustine, Florida, possibly one of the more outspoken drivers of the series and the most aggressive. Doesn't matter what track you'll find him at. He'll do an alternate strategy. He'll do anything in his power to try and gain track position and win any given kind of race. And he has shown incredible speed over the course of 2026. The win just hasn't been there yet. So the puzzle piece is yet to be found to finalize the mural that Warren Kyle Keith has been attempting to build all season long. We mentioned back to Pocono Raceway, probably the best chance other than Texas this year that Keith has had at Victory Lane this season. And then that was denied in the late race goings after a restart where him and Cedric Hunter made contact, and around the 24 went into the back end of the outside wall. And he's, of course, told us his emotions through it all, the highs, the lows, the frustrations, the jokes, everything in between. Always a lot of fun to talk to is Warren Kyle Keith, but someone who is trying to build up at least a heap of momentum and points and top 5 and top 3 finishes before this regular season is all said and done. But knowing the tracks in the chase, we know Keith has solidified a spot with the season he has had so far. It's just a matter of whether he can complete the journey and try and win his first ever career championship. He was all the way back in 17th. Remember earlier on tonight when him and Cedric Hunter, among others, hit pit road after the first 2 laps of the race were interrupted by the spinning Hunter in turn 3, but obviously that was just to top off on fuel. Then we had that caution to lap number 18 of the race. Didn't bring out any sort of peril or caution by those drivers who came in. They said, all right, well, we have the extra fuel, we'll just go in for another stop. And hence why you saw Warren Kyle Keith go for a little bit less of a stop than the rest of the field, only 6.1 seconds in the box for the 24 car. And that could be attributed to that early pit stop on lap number 2 of the race, while Cedric Hunter took a normal pit stop with the rest of the field at around 10.1 seconds, and he has moved up to a race-high 3rd place. A driver from Canada, and the only representing Canadian driver in this series other than Brad Fulham, trying to weave his way to the front. Getting right to the back bumper of Zach Wilson. Wiggles loose off turn 2. Here comes Hunter down the back straightaway. First battle for the runner-up spot in a little while, and it's an easy textbook pass around the outside on the back straightaway. Cedric Hunter back to a race-high 2nd, and in the exact same spot he spun from in turn 3 on lap 2. 38 laps later, he is back in the runner-up spot with a lot more hunger and is 0.3 faster than the race leader last time by. Hunter led 29 laps, finished 3rd in this race last season. His teammate Hall finished runner-up, and Steven Maggio spoiled the party with a win. But can it be a 7th race victory of the season for Cedric Hunter, trying to beat the record set 9 wins in season 1 by Lawson Peel? Didn't equate to a title at the end of it all, but Hunter hoping that his dominance through the regular season can carry to the chase, and he can get back on top of the throne in the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series. He pulls away from Wilson by 0.3. Once again is faster than Whittington by at least another 10th on the racetrack through 41 laps. And what is now our longest green flag run of the night in this Brickyard 312. So we mentioned strategy, of course, a big talking point at these kinds of tracks, the peculiar ovals, if you want to put them in a category. Tracks like Nashville Superspeedway, Darlington Raceway, Pocono Raceway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway tonight. All of them at different lengths, but of course very different shapes. They're not the typical cookie cutter mile and a half, nor are they in the categories of road courses and super speedways. So they usually go a lot down to these strategy formatted races where it's all about saving fuel and putting in your best foot forward, not only behind the wheel, but in the brain of the driver and the team around him, whether they have a spotter or not, just trying to figure out the math and figure out if they can make it to the end of this race. And we have seen 100% fuel given to the drivers in this series that has allowed for them to go a little bit longer than the average fuel window that we usually see in stock car races on the KBueno Racing Network. Often we've been accustomed, right to seeing the 75% fuel and seeing that marker at these tracks at around 30 to 35 laps under green that you can run on a max stint when you're pushing as hard as possible, when you're running as normally as you can. But of course, with the 100% fuel, you could almost go to halfway, but that does get very, very close to the official halfway mark of this race, which should come around lap 62 to lap 63. So as we are approximately 20 laps from that marker of the race, and on lap number 22 and 23 of every driver's respective stint as they all come down pit road under the second caution of the race, that has, of course, enabled them to start thinking, is it going to be a one-stop until the end? Is it going to be a two-stopper until the end? Sources say possibly looking at least a one-stop before this race is all said and done. Sideways is Swavely as they come off of turn 3. What a save by the heavies. Number 32 of Swavely could have easily caused our third yellow of the night. But a masterful job by Swavely to keep this car controlled, and we stay green. Wow. Incredible car control, what has been the most treacherous part of the racetrack tonight. Turn 3 has taken no prisoners, and Swavely got all out of shape, bent the car back into motion, and made it look like nothing else happened. Gave away a few track position changes along the way, but still a clean race car is a clean race car at the end of the day, and one that Swavely is going to be very thankful he has a clean race car after that sequence. There's the onboard look. Carried the speed, and we saw the same situation happen with Brad Fulham earlier on tonight. Car stabilized and then immediately weight shifted back to the right side of the track, going for another spill. Great job by Swavely to keep control of that Ford Mustang and not create any further trouble. Although that 32 car saved it, he has hemorrhaged a bit of the track position, and he is all the way back to the 13th running spot. Whittington has been the best car of the night. He has not conceded a lap lead so far in this race, but the man behind him is going to try to change the script. The pole sitter tonight, who didn't even have the lead at the exit of turn 1 on the opening lap of the race, is going to try to regain it and actually lead one lap in this Brickyard 312. Last time by, though, they have equalized on time. Give Whittington the last lap, 52.143. While Hunter has set a 52.188. Very impressive again this season for Whittington. Like we mentioned, gaining track position in practically every single start until now. He had back-to-back second-place runs, and has parlayed that into continuous points finishes, whether it be through road courses, in mile-and-a-halves, in super speedways. Had his first finish outside of the top 10 since May 3rd of 2026, when he finished 17th at Kansas. It was 13th in the June 28th race at the World Center of Racing at Daytona. But consistency has been the high mark for Whittington over the course of the year, and now has to watch as the most dominant driver of the season is stepping up to the plate. Turn 3 has been all out of sorts for the drivers this evening. Has been no different for Cedric Hunter that last time by. Still a hair slower at 52.194. It's Whittington, Hunter, Wilson, Stempien, and Stephen Harlow, the current running top 5 as this race continues on green here from the racing capital of the world. It has been a doozy here in this Brickyard 312 as we continue our coverage of the 2026 Droppin Hammah Cup Series season on the KBueno Racing Network from Indianapolis. Coverage of the race continues on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
This baby hits 88 miles per hour. You're gonna see some serious...
They wanna know if he still got it. They say rap's king. They wanna know how I feel about. And even when I was close to defeat, I rose to my feet. Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love in the streets.
Welcome to the Thousand Islands Cruette in Clayton, New York. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in for a tasting and our helpful and knowledgeable staff will help you find the perfect olive oils or vinegars to add that perfect touch to your next meal. We have monthly specials and sales as well as new pairings and recipes, so there's always something new to try when you visit. The Thousand Islands Cruette on James Street in Clayton. And don't forget, hey, no touchy the tankies.
Let's go. What's up?
Yo, what's up, Kenneth?
What's going on, man?
How are you?
Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini, I have a hoagie, I got it all through the Wall Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa. And back live from the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we continue green through 50 laps of this Brickyard 312 as we continue the late stage of the regular season in the 2026 Droppin the Hammah Cup Series season. Glad that you've been with us for the coverage on this Sunday night here on the KBueno Racing Network. Kenneth Bueno with you in the broadcast booth from virtual Indianapolis. While watching that battle for 11th place between a pair of rookies, Garrett Walden and David Duran, they have since settled things out. The current race lead still remains in the hands of Jesse Whittington. He has not conceded a single lap all night long after taking away the race lead from the car that sits currently right behind him, Cedric Hunter, on the opening lap of the race. Only 2 yellows tonight, one for Hunter and a self-spin on the second lap of the night off of turn 3. And then the same problem that befell Brad Fulham in the 19 car, went for a spin in turn 3. He since has fallen back to the last place spot in 19th. He is 34 laps down. And our first DNF of the night has been counted. Daniel Holcroft in the 4 has fallen to 18th, and he is out of tonight's race. Whittington, that red bannered Chevrolet, a part of the Noble 5 group, the 5 cars that are trying to run for a cash prize if they visit Droppin the Hammah victory lane tonight. Last time we were in a Noble 5 race, none of the eligible drivers won the affair to get the cash prize. Tonight, it's been a very different story. Whittington and Cedric Hunter, 2 red banner Noble 5 cars, are in contention to win as we approach the halfway mark of tonight's Brickyard 312. And of course, at least one more pit stop that is remaining for the drivers. We haven't properly seen a full green flag extended run yet, so we have not seen the drivers in the field take it all the way to the end of what their fuel tanks could achieve on a green flag stint. Of course, the first 2 laps went green until the yellow came out, so way before anyone could even find out what their cars were handling like in the long run when the tires wore down. And then in that second green flag run that was worth about 14 laps to about lap 18 when Fulham had gone spinning in turn 3, that was obviously a decent amount of time for the field to separate, get the tires wearing down, but not full enough to be able to make them think about green flag pit stops. Now that we have worn this one under its run for what is now currently counting as 33 laps at the stripe, going to be the first proper time that the field at least starts to ponder the idea of green flag pit stops in some capacity. And try to take their machines on pit lane. And our first bit of action that we saw, shorter timed pit stops with the next-gen car at around 9 to 10 seconds. We saw the effect of that, how it changed, or maybe not changed, the outcome in the battle for the lead off of pit road before the second green flag restart that has kept us green until this point. But now, of course, focus sets on what can be the handling of these race cars and a custom setup with 20 added horsepower to the base intermediate package that these drivers have been trying to figure out all night long. There's the Charlie Byer photography onboard camera with the Bass Pro Shops number 88 of Steven Stepien. Boy, he's been ripping this race car through the entire run. It's been very sideways, particularly in 3 and 4. Obviously, he and the rest of the Droppin and Hammah Cup Series admins trying to play with the setup and the power output of these next-gen cars to make them just a little bit more competitive on the track and make them a little more fun to drive, even in the wake of dirty air, where that has been the major complaint. Here comes Hunter, though, for the lead. Has been a faster machine through the last few laps and finally takes a charge to the inside of the racetrack. Made the pass on Wilson right here on the back straightaway for a second, and now trying to accomplish the same feat to get Whittington his first lap, not in the race lead, and the pass is complete for the lead. First lead change since lap number 1. The pole sitter, Cedric Hunter, back to the point at Indianapolis. And a beautiful drive as we have finally encountered team drivers on pit road. Jesse Whittington says this is his moment. He and his teammate Wilson visit pit lane at lap number 55. So with exactly 70 laps to go, we know they cannot make it 70 laps on a green flag stint on 100% fuel. So that is going to change the outcome considerably. And Whittington has overshot the pit box, so that's going to lose him a bunch of time. Charles Van Schaik is in on pit road as well. And that has officially created the first cycle of cars that will have to make a green flag pit stop, potentially 2 of them, before this race is all said and done. Here comes Cedric Hunter off of 4. Stephen Harlow follows him in. So a Toyota and Chevrolet will visit pit road at lap 55 rather. And that leaves Steven Stepien to be the race leader for the first time tonight under this green flag pit stop scenario. So while things have been going so clean and green over the course of the night, Steven Stepien will have a chance to lead a few laps at Indianapolis and, of course, go on just a little bit of a longer run. We haven't seen anybody in this field elect to save any semblance of gas. We haven't really noted any drivers that have been coasting and trying to clutch in the middle of these corners. We've just seen the field run at full capacity, which is something that, you know, at places like super speedways, they don't like to really do, where they have to hold back, save a bunch of fuel, and then try and run it hard until the end. They were on a run it hard from lap 1 until the very end. So here at Indianapolis, it is no different for the driver basis. Here's Garrett Walden trying to take a look for 5th underneath Alex Muscarella. These 2 cars having not come down pit road yet tonight. And now Steven Stepien from the race lead comes down pit road. That'll be the battle for 3rd place and 4th place. Justin Erb follows suit in 2nd. He stays out the extra lap, and so does Brandon Banks. So lap 57, those 2 cars will stay out for as long as they can, which is now on the cusp of around 40 laps of their green flag stint. 37 complete for Brandon Banks and Justin Erb and the last few drivers that are waiting again. All of them came down pit road when the second yellow flag came around at lap number 18 of tonight's Brickyard 312. And so the South Carolina native will try to bring in some laps led and hope that the overcut attempt will be more than enough to get him some track position and, of course, enough points to even out or at least edge out the number 45 of Cedric Hunter, who is on a collision course with destiny as he tries to capture his 7th race victory of the season. Around he goes on Steven Stepien. That's a pass for 9th, and that is currently your net race leader. He'll come off of turn 2 to the back straightaway. In comes Brandon Banks on pit road. He goes around 38 green flag laps before eventually calling it quits. Justin Erb is the next driver to stay out. Walden and Durand remain out there. It is now what is considered at least 7 cars that are not yet on pit road and have not achieved what is currently going to be either their 2nd or 3rd stop tonight. So that does assure us that they cannot make it until the end. They need at least that 1 more pit stop to go. And if they are pitting now at around lap 58 to 60, that equates to a potential pit stop if we remain under green at around lap 100 and in around the 35 to 25 to go lap mark. So that's going to be a crucial point of attack for the field to try and find some semblance of momentum. They can achieve quick pit stops. Pair of drivers on pit road now. There's the WeatherTech Chevrolet of David Duran and the Heavies Ford Mustang of Richard Swabley that end up on pit road. So Justin Erb will share another spot at the front. Walden, Muscarella, and Stevens and Kunkel, now the 4 drivers that have yet to make a marker on pit road. Now there is a difference on tires to the betterment of Steven Stepien. He just filed in right behind Zach Wilson, and frankly is not too far behind the pair of drivers that are going to be running for the net race lead, as Duran and Swabley have come down pit road and they have just been passed entering turn 1. So Stepien with the faster set of tires by only 1 lap and by potentially 2 laps over the drivers in front. It's going to be a massive advantage here in Indianapolis, and with this time to play, there could be more than enough space that Stepien can make up. It's not going to be a rally too much from behind. It's going to be more so a realistic chance at being able to gain not only the second place net position, but take the net race lead and be a leader comfortably for the first time all night long. There's Alex Muscarella, who continues to remain out on the racetrack. We've noted that he has gone the longest of anyone, like James Kunkel. They have gone now 40 laps on their stint that extends all the way down to Charles Stevens. And you can tell with Alex Muscarella's onboard camera, there is no sign of saving and coasting. He is, in fact, just trying to make turn 3, put the right front tire in, tucking it down into 4th gear. We expect them to come down pit road soon. And there's the signal from the 48 car, just leaving it to the left side of the racetrack. He is coming in this time by lap 60 at what is just shy of the official halfway mark of tonight's race. So we again look at our skmcars.com race analysis. It's a 125 lap affair. This is a rather long race, the exact same distance we ran at the Super Speedway at Daytona. That one also came down to strategy. What was a flag to flag run? While tonight's Indy has been a little bit different with the pair of yellows we had relatively early, it has almost felt like a flag to flag race, given it has really opened up to the idea of strategy. And now with 3 cars in contention for the win, with this tire strategy that is in favor of the 88 car right now, it is going to be a lot of fun to see where these cars end up cycling through, whether Stepien is able to make up any ground or if Cedric Hunter is really the man to beat. We noted Jesse Whittington, who was the fastest car all night long, just had that bit of a mistake on pit road, overshot the pit box, and what could have been an easy 10.1 second stop ballooned into a 12.5 second trip in and out of his pit stall. So that has really hemorrhaged the run for the 94 car, and the Cypress Racing Academy car has fallen back to 6th place as a result, and only has 1 lap better tires than Warren Kyle Keith, and doesn't have any lap better tires than those who have remained in this position up ahead of him for the net lead. James Kunkel has remained on the racetrack. He is yet to visit pit road. Now he's on the pit lane, so that will in fact hand the lead back over to the Canadian, who will now comfortably sit on the front row. If we end up getting another yellow, but will sit at the front of this field with a chance to extend his gap on the strategy if we remain in this spot, as we have fully settled into our green flag stop and what is now the longest run of the night here from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So while the drivers run around this 2.5-mile famed rectangle in Speedway, Indiana, let us turn the sounds up and crank it up here on the KBueno Racing Network. nice to hear these cars sing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a place destined for racing ever since it opened back in 1909. And we have just come under 60 laps to go, and the official halfway mark here in this Brickyard 312 from Indianapolis. Center Cutter continues to remain the race leader. Zach Wilson behind in second. Steven Stepien running in the top three with Warren Kyle Keith and Jesse Whittington finalizing the top five. It's Brandon Banks running in sixth. Stephen Harlow running seventh. Charles Van Schaik, Justin Erb, and David Duran for the rest of the running top 10. And of course, these top three have remained right in the grasp of each other since cycling out on the net race position through green flag stops. It had remained at around half a second between Hunter and Wilson. And mind you, those two cars only on a one-lap difference on tires, and the same one-lap difference on tires between Hunter and Stepien. While Stepien, even though he has 2-lap better tires than Wilson, has yet to be able to make a proper move for second place. They have all stabilized at around the 51.9s, 52 flats, and they have been easily the most comfortable cars on the racetrack in terms of outright pace and just being on the same mark as each other, but neither of them have been fast or enough to be able to make any sort of difference or track position change within these last few laps. We just got word that more drivers have gone a lap down, and one more has entered the DNF list. That is Richard Swavely in the number 32 machine. He is the most recent car to take his machine behind the wall and into the garage, so Swavely will not be able to see the end of tonight's Brickyard 312, and the 32 Heavies machine will fall back to 17th, and most likely will be exactly there when this race is all said and done. Only 16 cars remain in what was a 20-car registered start. Of course, Alex Huffman not able to make the green flag despite being the 20th registered car in the field. And then, of course, just some of the problems for Brad Dillon, who towed after his spin on lap number 18. Daniel Holdcroft and Richard Swavely bleeding time tonight before eventually calling it quits in what has been now a rather long-feeling race with the green flag runs that have overcome the field. And now their minds turns from keeping these cars alive on the racetrack to just pure strategy and making sure they can have the right pit stop until the end. So we are just about to reach, in about 10 or so laps, the fuel window to make it until the end. We did see the Max drivers go at least 40 to 41 laps on their tank of gas. James Kuckel going the longest of anyone in the field. So we know at least one more stop is guaranteed for the field if they want to see the checkered flag with enough gas in the tank, of course, warranting any different restarts that could happen late. But as long as we do stay green, it's going to be that idea of just trying to muster this car into the next pit stop and cycling out until the end. And like we mentioned earlier on in this show, there have been no signs of anyone really saving any fuel. We haven't seen drivers in the back of the field clutch and coast like at other tracks we've seen this season, where the strategy to save has been much more viable, hence they'll be more likely to take it. But as we've seen over the course of the race, no one has decided to be the alternate. Even Warren Kyle Keith, who we usually see as the first driver to extend his hand out the window and say, hey, let me do the different thing. Let me try something outwardly compared to everyone else and see if that works in my favor. He's been still on the stable part of the strategy and more on the safer side than the rest of this field. So it's really become a calm and rather competitive race here from Indianapolis, but one that still has strung out under a long green flag run. Again, our last two races, including this one, have not gone flag to flag. Our last flag to flag affair was surprisingly at Daytona, the super speedway where most people encounter yellow flags at any given point of that race, especially late. But it didn't happen. We ended up in a green flag run until the very end. It was still a great race on strategy. We had differing calls until the end, and Alex Muscarello with a great win at the end of it all. But tonight has just all been about surviving what is a brand new setup, new power output for this next-gen car here tonight. And so with the changes on the speedway, with the changes of these cars and how they feel, it's been more about how the field has embraced, or rather adapted to the idea and the feel of these cars over the course of this race in conditions under what has been a mostly cloudy day here in Virtual Speedway, Indiana. Track temp has not really crawled up more than around 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and winds not more than around 11 miles an hour. It's around to the east, still mostly cloudy conditions, but 84 degrees on the track temp. And what that usually means is higher grip levels. When you see extremely hot track temperatures in the 100s, the 110s, the 120s, the 130s, it can go even higher than that at some specific tracks given the right heat conditions, you'll have these cars scrambling for grip. No way for them to find any sign of turning and rotation in their cars. In fact, they'll see a lot more rotation than they want, and hence you'll see extremely loose machines that are right on the edge of control. But with the conditions here today, it's 84 degrees, so it's right in the normal spot of average grip. We've seen much cooler track temperatures and night conditions on racetracks across the service and in this league respectively, which has allowed for higher grip levels. So while the clouds have covered the sunny skies here in virtual Indiana, it has allowed for just a little bit more grip. Although with this custom setup and the power output, I think the admins definitely wanted these cars to feel a little more free to drive rather than tight, which has been the main complaint at tracks like these and at Pocono, where it's not necessarily a multi-groove venue, and you do really have to search for the white line at the very bottom of the racetrack to find any relevant speed for track position. So our top three have pulled away by a large margin. They're almost 3 full seconds ahead of Warren Kyle Keith, who was running in 4th. The leader is now 4.5 seconds away from Jesse Whittington, who's the last car in the top 5. And if you want to go back to David Duran, who is the rookie, currently the last driver in the top 10 right now, he is 14.9 seconds back of the race leader. That is how much things have switched here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, how things have thinned out, and how comfortable the field has gotten with just running single file and trying to run their own race, keep these cars alive for the rest of this running. 50 laps to go when we cross the stripe next time by, so we are inching closer to that final fuel window where these drivers can comfortably come in on pit road and be assured they have enough gas to make it at least to the scheduled distance at 312.5 miles and 125 laps. And while the call for Cedric Hunter was right in the sweet spot, about a lap after the race leader and Jesse Whittington had come in, Hunter is going to hope that his potential strategy call is going to be well more than enough to keep him out in front as he searches for career win number 8 and win number 7 of 2026. And Hunter, after the run of a lifetime last week in the Grand Prix of Sears Point at Sonoma Raceway, told us after the second place finish he knew Zachary Hall, his teammate, was going to absolutely dominate, and almost had the same feeling that his teammate was going to try and dominate this race. And we almost anticipated that he would be in the starting lineup tonight, but in fact he was not here for the green flag. He did not register for the session, and so you can only imagine that either he's busy doing something else, busy on a Sunday night, or he's out there coaching Cedric Hunter on strategy to try and get him another race victory. And that is the main point of conversation between those two teammates and how they want to continue their chokehold on the entire Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series world after Hall stunned the field with a championship title, his only career win at the time, coming at Homestead at Miami in the finale over his teammate and many others. And then the first 1-2 finish in their team's history at Sonoma last Sunday, Hall getting his second career win and first points-paying win since that Homestead dub. But his focus, even in the winning moments at Sonoma, is I want Cedric Hunter to win the championship. I want to get him enough momentum, enough wins to secure a title for both of us. Those two very good friends. They know each other's driving style. They've known each other for years. And so what a story it is, not only for Hunter as a dominant driver this season, how he has really blossomed into this star in the Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series, but how the former champion of this series is even helping him get better and improve and be the master of strategy in races like these. And on back-to-back occasions where Hunter has had to scrap and fight through track position to get to a good spot in the top 3, second at Sonoma after spinning on the opening lap before they even crossed the line when they took the green, and then eventually rallying to the second place finish behind his teammate in Hall. I mean, what a story it's been for Hunter, who is trying to beat the all-time wins record in a single season set by Lawson Peel, who by June 22nd in Season 1 had picked up his 7th win of the year. And that was in the playoffs. And in this moment, before the regular season is all said and done, Cedric Hunter hopes he can be the next one to take over and continue to change the record books as it stands. Here's the onboard look with Warren Kyle Keith, Florida native, trying to hold on to the top 4 after Jesse Whittington has put on the pressure quite a bit. He's been the better car out of these two the last few laps, a little bit of a tenth closer to Warren Kyle Keith after the last lap. 4 tenths inside of this 24 cars gap as he runs 3.6 seconds behind the leader. And hear that in turn 3. Absolute radio silence. So after a bit of question marks as to who would be the first driver to save fuel, if there even was going to be someone to save more fuel than others and try a max strategy, it's this man right here to do it. Listen as he comes to turn 1. Absolutely sweet nothing with 46 laps to go and back onto the throttle coming off of turns 1 and 2 as he enters the back straightaway. So there's the first sign of someone trying to save some fuel. We haven't seen anyone else try and save fuel at this juncture of the race, just given the nature of it, and especially this top 3, the way they have run. They have blistered away from anyone else in this field. The gap at a 5.5 second margin from the leader to 5th in Warren Kyle Keith, where we were watching that car saving fuel. And this top 3 just really comfortable in where they've been. No sign of them even trying to save. They feel like they can make it all the way to the end, and coming to 45 laps to go here from Indianapolis, I mean, that's where in about 5 laps time they'll just start thinking of one last stop until the end. And although we did talk about the possibility of tires being the big concern with this new setup and how loose it is, how it's been a problem for drivers, especially in turns 3 and 4 on the racetrack, we haven't seen tires be that big of a factor just because of how difficult it's been to make up track position, the natural sign of things here at Indianapolis with these next-gen stock cars. And we noted after the first run of green flag stops that Stepien has better tires than not only Wilson ahead of him in second, but ahead of the race leader. And while Stepien is gaining time right now, it is not a lot compared to what he could have been gaining at most other tracks by even having just 1 lap better tires. It's just shown you how the Goodyear Eagles, them being fresh, has not helped too much, especially when the margin is that thin at around 1 to 2 laps. It's not really making that big of a difference. And so if you are any one of these drivers at the front, do you think if this final green flag stop ends up taking over till the end of the checkered flag, do you even bother try the overcut to have fresher tires, or is it just worth it to overcut by at least a lap or 2, gain the track position when you can, and then just hold on to it? We haven't seen too much change since Cedric Hunter retook the race lead tonight. Wilson has remained in second. Stepien has remained in third. Jesse Whittington is back in fifth, but now he'll, of course, gain spots after Keith has started his max save until the end. So, frankly, it's just been one of those nights where tires haven't really been the standout factor of them all, and it's really just about where the placement of your car is at all times. And that's been the talking point here at Indianapolis, and much was the same at Pocono, even though that race fell to yellows late, and it was mostly about restarts within 5 laps to go where Hunter was able to pull away. Just tires haven't meant that much, and trying to differentiate yourself in that front isn't going to be too successful, especially since this track is rather single file. There was the pass for second. Looks like Wilson bobbled at the exit of turn 2. So hello opened the door for Steven Stepien, breaking free, and Stepien ends up into the second spot for the first time in just a little bit since basically we went through the green flag cycle tonight. Just a lot going on here in this Brickyard 312, but it's been a clean race so far. Only 2 incidents, and none have involved more than 1 car tonight. And so it's been an impressive showing by the field to be single file the entire way through. A lot of great things happening tonight on the Sunday. Of course, NASCAR Cup Series racing happening right now, their final stage in the middle of it all. Joey Logano leading that race in NASCAR's first North Wilkesboro points-paying race in a very long time. Of course, North Wilkesboro getting its revival in 2020, being dusted up and put on the iRacing service before it was eventually reinstilled to real-life racing with late model stock cars, and of course inviting NASCAR for the All-Star race for a few years, and then putting that track on this year's calendar for the Cup Series as a points-paying affair. Really cool to see the history change for North Wilkesboro and be revitalized in the North Carolina Wilkes County. and how the fans have really adored the change and obviously the resurgence and the reimagination of that racetrack. And of course, a World Cup final happening earlier on this afternoon. Spain taking the World Cup for just the second time in the club's history over Argentina in a 1-0 final in New York, New Jersey, and East Rutherford at the MetLife Stadium. So it's been another historic Sunday across the entirety world of sports, as here is a magnitude call on pit road with just over 40 laps to go. Remember when Warren Kyle Keith was saving fuel? Well, looks like he is going to call this run quits. He did underfuel it a bit on the last stop, so most likely a necessary call right at the cusp of the fuel window. We did see James Kunkel and company go at least over 40 laps. They went right at the marker of 41, but does anyone else follow suit? Does anyone else try a same strategy? Do they wait for the long pit here, or is this just run it till it's dry, even if with 20 laps to go, and eventually hope the cycle breaks out for you? But it's not going to matter. Yellow flag is out. Trouble for two cars, Stephen Harlow and Chuck Van Schaik in turn 4. And our first yellow flag since lap 18 comes out with 40 laps remaining. And we're fighting for position in the back half of the top 10. And there was trouble that ended up right in front of both of these cars. Take a look. It's a 3-car breakaway. Harlow in front, Van Schaik in the middle, Justin Erb behind them, and it's once again the treacherous turn 3, catching another driver off guard. And this time it was Harlow that went out for the spill, taking Van Schaik with him. And there was nowhere for the 23 car to go. Second week in a row that Van Schaik ends up in an incident that is not his fault in the slightest. And the two cars end up with severe damage. Remember, Van Schaik taking over third place in the driver's standings. Here's the onboard look. It's the wiggle from the 6 car, and Van Schaik hoping that the 6 machine would have cleared to the inside of the racetrack, but there was absolutely nowhere that Van Schaik could have gone. And with that, Warren Kyle Keith can attempt to stay out on the racetrack after coming in this time by not too long ago. He will indeed stay out, while the rest of the field will come in for what could be the final time tonight in this Brickyard 312. Who can win the race off pit road? And here they come, Brandon Banks with a great stop, 11.4, but it's not enough to beat Hunter's 11.7, and being that first pit box at the front. What a pit stop for Brandon Banks. The South Carolina native came into this night 8 points behind the Hunter car for the points lead, and now we'll see those two go mano-a-mano as the restart comes up, and Warren Kyle Keith will be the only driver on the speedway to stay out. What a luckily timed yellow for Keith, who will now enjoy the lead for the first time tonight, and it's going to be in the crucial, possible final run of this race here from the Brickyard. So let's get a moment to talk with the driver of the number 24. Has the lead comfortably for the first time tonight. Warren, you were basically the only driver we noted of to save fuel under that long green flag run last. You pitted right before this yellow flies. It's the magic spot. How has the perspective of this race changed from when you came in on pit road to now the reaction of this yellow?
I don't know. That's racing God's little bit of a luck there. I was saving fuel strictly for the fact that I'm barely even going to make it right now. On that pit stop before, we were just bleeding spots like poker chips at a poker table. It was bad. We didn't take tires that previous caution, so we were just fuel only that last caution before this. And short fueled the car on that previous pit stop to get track position. It worked out in our favor. Obviously, we went from like 9th to whatever we were, 4th or 5th. So underfueled the car, and I knew I was going to have to pay the price at some point, and paid the price there. I had to pit a little early, but luckily that worked out somehow in our favor. Usually never does, so I guess we'll take that. But right now we're just to save as much fuel as we can under caution here.
So this is exactly right at the edge of the window. We did see drivers go at least 40 laps. So with even saving here under the yellow, do you feel you're comfortable to make it at least to the scheduled distance? We know things can change from here on out, but do you feel you can comfortably make it to 125?
Yeah, I mean, I should. I mean, right now I'm showing 38 laps to go on fuel, and right now we're working 38 to go and coming to 37. So I'll have at least a lap, and that's pretty accurate now based on iRacing doing its thing. So that's at least an accurate statement, but it's going to be tight, and hopefully we can get the clean air here. And, you know, did a little practice saving that last run with Jesse, and if you have the clean air ahead of you, even if you're saving, no, they really can't get by us. So we're going to try our best here to get the clean air and try to save a little bit here and there.
Well, Warren, great pit stop there, and now the race lead here with under 40 laps to go. Best of luck in the rest of the race.
Thank you.
Warren Kyle Keith, the SKM Ford Mustang Dark Horse, going to be leading the field for the first time in what is our third green flag restart of the night, our first yellow since lap 18. So around 70 laps later, we're going to have another green flag start with the field most likely able to make it to lap 125. It's still a bit of a question mark. They were right at the edge of the window. The field did come down. Hunter was the leader off of pit lane among those who came in. Warren Kyle Keith, the only one to stay out. It is Keith versus Hunter once again at a peculiarly shaped 2.5-mile oval. Keith will be the control car. Brandon Banks to support while Wilson tries to help Hunter press forward. Green flag through the restart zone, and it's rather even between the two leaders as they come back to turn one for the first time under green in a little bit. Keith flaring the inside, has enough to clear. Hunter washes up high, sideways off of one. Banks is there, shutting the door. Keith with the lead to the back straightaway. And the field fans out. Teammates going for side-by-side for fourth. That's Whittington trying to press onto his teammate. While Stepien fires off the inside of Justin Earp, plants and fires in turn 3. As they still go side-by-side, Hunter is right there as they come to turn 4. Less than a car length between the leaders to 36 laps to go. And what a drive it's been for Hunter all night long to make up ground for Warren Kyle Keith. A possible strategic masterclass if he can hold on to the top spot. Remember, these two don't really have a difference on tires. And it's only around 2 laps, so we saw how really little that made a difference with Steven Stepien and some of those leaders at the front in the last green flag run. And if that can hold serve for the 24 Warren Kyle Keith, he still has a lot of work to do before he can crown himself a Droppin' the Hammah Cup Series winner. He tries to hold back in turn 3 to make the arc of the corner. It's been the hardest part of this track for anyone to drive. It's been the most dangerous area of the field. Hunter, of course, trying to hold on to second, try to take the lead back, but most importantly, hold position right in front of the 5 car, the Valvoline Chevrolet of Brandon Banks, the driver who so far is getting right close to Hunter in the battle for the points lead entering this race. Here comes Hunter, flailing all over the front straightaway, trying to make a move in turn 1, denied. Another car length separate the two leaders while Wilson fires the inside for third on Brandon Banks. And it is still Warren Kyle Keith at the front. And there's Wilson getting around Banks. As that field has opened up, here comes Jesse Whittington, fire off on the inside, near contact as they came around to turn 3, but he fires in again, that time behind his teammate, nearly nudging his fellow driver up into the outside wall. And here comes Justin Earp to make it 4 cars. Now 5, Steven Stepien's in the mix. What a race for second and for the lead. Warren Kyle Keith has not comfortably led this race until this moment. It was him falling the 3rd at Sonoma Raceway last Sunday Well, the man you're on board with right now had to deal with second as his teammate won the race outright in dominant fashion. But the 6-time race winner this season wants to make sure he doesn't finish second or third fiddle here at the Brickyard. Big run off 3, wiggles it sideways. He's within a car length again to turn 4. And they since have pulled away swimmingly. Contact behind them in the running for 6th place. Stepien, Durand, Whittington, all of them running for 6th to turn 1. And don't look now, but that 3rd place position for Zach Wilson may be under fire, and so may be 4th, where Brandon Banks is trying to call himself home for a top 5. Justin Erb has emerged from the shadows and is trying to make a move as they come back to turn 3 on the back straightaway. Hunter has yet to give away any time. And could one lap be the breakout moment for Hunter to take position right at the front of this field and establish another echelon of dropping the Hammah Cup Series dominance? Stepien makes way on Erb. Those two may go side by side. Here comes Hunter, peeking to the inside for a run at the lead. Can't get the momentum of the inside yet. And Keith will remain in the race lead for now, shutting that door as they came back around to what is 32 laps to go. There is still a long way to go here at Indianapolis. And these drivers are racing like their life depends on it. Charlie Bauer Photography on board look with the 88 car as he tries for 5th. Just see just how close the drivers in the top 5 have been to each other through this entire run so far. We're only a few laps in, and again, it's going to be about Warren Kyle Keith spending all of his fuel more than anyone else at the head of this field because he is that lead car. But he told us he feels that he's comfortable enough to make it to the checkered flag, even if this race goes all the way clear without a single yellow flag interfering the run. He was that driver that short pit earlier on in this race. And here comes Hunter, dive to the inside in turn 4. Can it stick to the front straightaway? He's there. Cedric Hunter making the move. They're door banging, leaning on each other to the yard of bricks. Who can make the spot in turn 1? Keith trying to pinch. Hunter to the bottom. Hunter clears, new race leader from the Brickyard. What a drive, what a pass. And now Keith has to deal with the pressure from behind in Zach Wilson as he attempts to get back to the top spot. But Hunter has yet to be denied for most of this season. And he's got a chance to hold on with 29 laps to go at the stripe. It's Keith, Wilson, Banks, all within at least 5 car lengths coming back to turn 1. And we haven't talked too much about Brandon Banks through the course of tonight's race. He's been mostly in the shadows, but now peeking into the sunlight as the clouds have cleared just a bit in Speedway. And for Brandon Banks, of course, trying to continue to remain second in the driver's point standings list. It shouldn't change after tonight if he stays this way. Just knowing where Chuck Van Schaik ended up being in that crash and the 23 car is rummaged in 11th for now, but for Banks, this could be the night that he at least stays in second and realistically understands that with 29 laps to go, if it stays green and if there is no proper change, Cedric Hunter is going to continue to run away with the points lead. And remember, points will reset as we come into the chase, but there will be some of the bonus points. There are going to be a lot of things that affect the top-heavy drivers entering that chase format and those who are left behind. And while Banks has a win already this season and has had great finishes over the course of the campaign, well, Hunter has been able to reach victory lane 6 times this year. So that is, of course, a drastic difference in the very high favor weighing to the 45 car of Hunter and the Canadian, trying to extend a gap that could be very large come chase time at Chicagoland, and one that may be insurmountable past a certain point for those in the top 12. But Banks understanding that each race is another chance to have a top 5, so he's going to keep on just to keep on. Have the good points at the end of the night, but still able to gain track position if he's able to move up on Wilson and on Warren Kyle Keith. Here's the battle for 5th, coming back to turn 1. As Stepien makes the move to the inside of Justin Erb and David Duran right behind, so we could have a great battle. These two were going at it earlier on in this race, and we saw many of those cars cluster up together, leaned on each other in the short chute, coming to turn 1. Contact as they came around the corner. Stepien finally makes up the spot, and Erb has to give way, but it could open the door for not only the David Duran car, but Jesse Whittington and Stephen Harlow, a driver who's trying to come back after the crash in turn 3, brought out the most recent yellow of the night. And so Chevrolets across the board, other than that one car, Justin Erb, just a prancing horse in the middle of all of those bow tie Chevrolets. Cracking down on the final 26 from Indianapolis. What a night it's been. What a journey it's been for Hunter. To have the spin on lap 2. Another race where possibly he thinks is embarrassing for himself and his standards of racing, but finding a way to just come back on pure speed alone. And in this final sector, everything in his power to pull away, and he is doing so by a comfortable margin. Last time by 4/100ths of a second faster than Warren Kyle Keith, who's 0.8 of a second adrift and still losing time. As Zach Wilson has emerged in the background, Stepien is starting to gain pace. He has cleared very much the car of the 20 in Justin Erb, who runs in 6th, and then that Brandon Bank car who we see run in 4th. This could easily become at least a 4-car quartet that's battling for track position in the top 2 coming to the end of this race, so it could get very fun by the time this is all said and done. But of course, none of them at this moment feeling that they have enough pace to master the 45 car. And it just almost feels like what Lawson Peel set in season number 1, but this is happening at an even faster rate than we saw Peel do it in the first season. Remember, our earlier topic said that Peel took until the playoffs to get his 7th race victory of the season. We're not even done with the regular season, and Cedric Hunter is on the precipice of getting a 7th race victory in a campaign. So he is eagerly on the pace to break a record that Peel set in the first season that we didn't think could be replicated nor close to be beaten at all. And now history will be changed again. But it's the only representing Toyota driver in the field for a bulk of the season, other than Justin Hendry, who was joined midway through the campaign, who's going to try to bring the Camry another victory in 2026. So these cars continue to run single file, and this battle continues to get a little bit more heated up. Brandon Banks going right there. Oh, a car to the inside. Almost saw one hit the wall at the exit of turn 4. Weaved all the way down there. Justin Hendry slow coming on at pit road, but it might have been Chuck Stevens that went for a whirlwind coming off of turn 4 and nearly brought us another yellow. Just ate the wall coming off the final corner, weaved it down, barely got it back in enough time to avoid hitting the pit road attenuating barrels and that pit wall that comes up very quick, especially the high pace these cars go at. But luckily Stevens keeps it straight and will stay green. As this fight for 4th place continues to get a little more interesting. These cars right on pace with each other, but some blistering fast lap times for Steven Stepien, 51.7. He is almost 2 to 3 tenths faster than anyone on the racetrack. And in position to where he can gain track position on Brandon Banks, get a 2-for-1 as he's able to beat Zach Wilson. Big slide in turn 1. And the Massachusetts native trying to lock up another top 5 this season, as they all try desperately to catch up to Cedric Hunter in that bright pink Hello Kitty Toyota Camry, who will come across the line for 21 laps to go from the racing capital of the world. And this is a driver that hasn't finished outside of the top 5 since a top 15 run at Kansas on May 3rd. That's about 2 months to the day, 2.5 months most likely, since we've seen Hunter have a practical bad race. But ever since then, he's either won or he's been in second or third, and really everything in between, but has not had a poor season in the slightest, and easily continues to outstretch his hand to dominate this field as we watch a great battle for 6th and possibly even for 8th behind them. Whittington trying to apply the pressure on Stephen Harlow, while Duran works on Justin Erb. Gets the door shut as they come to the back straightaway into turn 3, but still the rookie trying to make an imprint on car number 20. Again, look at all those cars in the top 5. They have easily pulled away. There is possibly no chance if we stay green for them to make any sort of progress. So now you just got to fight within your means. And for Duran, fighting within his means is the car in front of him to go for position in P6. Stepien continues to inch closer on the rear end of Brandon Banks' Chevrolet to make that a proper battle for 5th, while Wilson and Keith have decided to pull away. They have not really made ground on the race leader at all. The gap remains still solid at about 1 second full. However, for those two drivers, it's really just about staying put, not gaining or losing any more track position if they are just in this spot where they're going to plateau till the end if it stays green, and just really hanging on for what the points are worth. And again, it's still going to be very important for the likes of Keith, for Stepien, for Banks, the drivers who had advanced through the in-season tournament challenge that is still going on through tonight, and is going to matter a ton as we enter New Hampshire Motor Speedway. I mean, Warren Kyle Keith came into this race to the quarterfinals tonight in New Hampshire, on where coming out of this race, he is going to be the points leader out of those 3. He's in a group with Charles Van Schaik and Justin Erb. We, of course, talk about Erb running 6th. Charles Van Schaik is back in 10th place. So regardless of the outcome, even if it's not a race victory, Keith will tell us that it's not really going to be too pleasant for him to be settled in second again. But he's still going to be happy that $100 is within the cards, at least a little closer to it, if he's able to advance with all the points gained after tonight. Cedric Hunter, of course, is going to blisteringly find his way through his group. He, of course, is with Chuck Stevens and Steven Stepien. Stepien running now in the top 5, but Hunter, of course, winning races is going to help him a ton until the end. So it's looking like Hunter will have the front forward foot by the time we get out of Indianapolis and move to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And then in the other group on the other side of the bracket, Jesse Whittington, Kevin Roy, and Garrett Walden. That's a rather close group between those 3. Whittington is the leading driver in 9th, Walden back in 11th, and Kevin Roy, who has since DNF'd, he's back in 16th. And then another group of Alex Muscarella, Timothy Stubblefield, and Stephen Harlow. Muscarella runs back in 12th. The leader of that group is Stephen Harlow running in 8th, and Timothy Stubblefield was not in the action tonight from Indianapolis, so that already is a step up for the other drivers in the field in that group. And so regardless of the outcome, it'll still feel like a win for Keith and some of the others that in their groups for the in-season challenge can get right on to the semifinals and try to have a chance to be one of those finalists in the 2 that are left in the Commonwealth of Virginia when we close out the regular season. So with 17 to go, it is still the race that Cedric Hunter has to lose, as he has regained control, and by a dominant margin now, 1.2 seconds. Keith is falling back in the background, and it has enabled Wilson and Banks and Stepien, 3 of the faster cars on the racetrack other than Cedric Hunter, to start making some moves, applying a bit of pressure And of course, trying to make things much more interesting in the run for the second place spot. There's 4 cars that are eligible for that, 1 Ford Mustang and 3 Chevrolet bow ties. So we mentioned last Sunday what a historic effort at the end for Category 5 Esports for Hunter to make his rally up, come back to second. His teammate Zachary Hall getting his 2nd career win. I mentioned it was his first win since this moment back in Season 1, the finale of it all, where we had some great racing at the front. There was Zachary Hall in that green banner Toyota Camry, part of the Championship 4 in the playoff format last season. And in South Florida, things got very fun in the battle for position. Steven Maggio among those that were trying to play spoiler to win the race. We had some fantastic battles at the front. Zachary Hall kept his composure, and then Cedric Hunter really making a name for himself very much through the midway point. Steven Maggio spinning off of pit road and the access road off of turn 2 to not bring out a yellow flag, but to be a big talking point at the end. And then just green flag racing for a majority of it all. Lawson Peel trying to solidify a title after a dominant 9-win season. Hunter and everybody right on his tail. What a race that would turn out to be. Brandon Banks, Cedric Hunter, 2 of the championship finalists going side by side, and it almost felt like it would go green all the way until the very end. That was, of course, until a late race yellow changed everything. But Lawson Peel had control of the championship lead, very much under fire through strategy. Cedric Hunter was right in the thick of it all. And while Zachary Hall just kept up his placement at the front of the field, it was really Category 5 Esports' night in total, not only for Hunter, even though he didn't win the title, but for the teammate of Zachary Hall, who ended up championship winning. There was the spin there on the back straightaway to bring out a late race yellow. And then, of course, the changes all the way at the end. Battle between the teammates, Hunter and Hall, giving us some of the best fighting we had ever seen all season long, side by side for the championship lead. Hunter would get around, and while Hunter had control for a little while, it was just all about the change in the lead. Lawson Peel coming back around, finding his way through Steven Maggio. And what a night it was at Homestead, Miami, just changing of the leads. Everybody, in fact, of that. And then Brandon Banks sideways, Cedric Hunter moving on through by. And then this battle between the teammates once again, Zachary Hall and Cedric Hunter. When the caution came out late in the race, and when it came down to strategy, warned Kyle Keith, the spinner, but the rest of the field to react accordingly. And react accordingly to Category 5 Esports did on the restart. Hall would make it through. Great push from his teammate, pulling away from the field. And in the last few laps of the race, nothing but beauty for Zachary Hall, running off turn 4, taking the checkered flag. And of course, the Season 1 dropping the Hammah Cup Series Championship, while his teammate Cedric Hunter would finish a bit further behind. What a moment that was for the team. They're trying to find an exact same moment here in 2026, just with a different driver. And with 13 laps to go, we are getting inches closer to Hunter achieving history, while this 4-way battle continues to get a little bit fun. We haven't seen anybody try to make any moves, but they could come soon. 12 laps to go. On board with Wilson, shows that gap still settled at 3 car lengths, and it really hasn't changed, surprisingly enough, just given all of the big time swings in lap time between this group. We almost thought Warren Kyle Keith would have given away that second place spot. Remember, it's hard to pass in Indianapolis. It's been quite that way for the bulk of the night. Stempien continues to apply pressure on Brandon Banks' Valvoline Chevrolet, but regardless, all of these cars are at least guaranteed a top 5 provided things do not change drastically for the rest of this race. And the only other good battle on the racetrack right now could be for 6th place. Remember, David Duran tried to make a move on Justin Erb, and then Whittington and Harlow also engaged in some one-on-one combat. Well, they 4 have also singled out, for the most part, with no clear favor in either one of the drivers' hands. They've just been all single file, running clean together, and no drastic difference in lap time or speed between any of them right now. But regardless, great points on the line, and just trying to bring this race home. Well, it's been a long night. 125 laps is nothing to scoff at, especially at these larger tracks at 2.5 miles. It can be an absolute gauntlet to run through Indianapolis as long as this race has gone green. And while strategy really isn't a talking point anymore after that recent yellow right on the window at around 40 laps to go, it still is worthy of note that tires matter a ton in this race. I mean, all the cautions we've seen tonight have not come from just pure contact with drivers on the track. It has come from mistakes, particularly here in 3 and 4. And usually Indianapolis is known for having turn 2 be the trouble spot, but a little bit peculiar that we're seeing the other end of the speedway be such a high topic of contention amongst the driver base, and tons of self-spins. All of our cautions tonight have come from a car that have lost the rear end, specifically at the exit of turn 3 in that short chute, whether it was Harlow with the recent yellow, Brad Fulham for the second yellow, and Cedric Hunter to bring out the first yellow of the night on cold tires. It's just been one of those races, or a little bit, it's been more about racing the track than it has been racing the cars, and very interested to see the discourse from the field after this one is all said and done, whether they did like this package and whether the field and the admins still have to experiment. And this admin team put up a 4-hour practice session in the days leading up to this race, so they wanted the drivers to get as acclimated as possible with this setup, them tinkering with 90% horsepower, 100%, which is the usual 670, the 103% horsepower that they agreed upon for tonight's race, which is around 690 horsepower at the engines of these cars. And then, of course, just a different set to try and make them a little less plow box in nature, which is what a lot of drivers would call the feel of this next-gen car, particularly at these kinds of tracks. And when we were here last, of course, there wasn't that big old shift in the next-gen aero and tire update, so there wasn't the dirty air, it wasn't as exacerbated, and you could run these cars a lot closer. So at these Indianapolis races, we would see more of a draft fest, almost felt more like an IndyCar affair, where you would use the draft, you would see huge packs of cars on the early runs, and that was something that drivers like Lawson Peel were so good at, was manipulating the air when the draft had mattered a ton more. But ever since the dirty air has kicked in, the tire model has changed. It's allowed for much more separated racing on the track. And you'll see a lot of drivers talk about how they don't feel too comfortable with this next-gen car just because of the way it handles naturally, all that downforce at the bottom end of the car, the horsepower output that these NASCAR Cup Series cars have that is reflective of real life in the package that they run. So it's been a little bit interesting just to see where they've landed for this race and how everything has ended up. A few days ago, Warren Kyle Keith said, run and get used to the package. Thank you. Just to try and get everyone used to what this car felt like. Practice and qualifying earlier on tonight, a rather long session in practice. And as we've run green through this long green flag stretch, after our last yellow came out with at least 40 laps to go, we are in the home stretch. 6 to go from Indianapolis. Wilson still holding on to position. Brandon Banks right behind. Stepien has fallen back. This could be the battle for third as they come off of turn 4. Keith is pulled away. He's trying to drive into the sunset and secure another top 3 finish, what would be his 4th straight of this 2026 season. Banks is still there, hounding on the back bumper of Warren, Kyle, Keith, and Wilson. Trying to get to the 60 car first, but it just has not panned out for him. Meanwhile, Stephen Harlow is within range, attacking underneath David Duran at the exit of turn 2. Shut the door, keeping the side draft plenty as they come down the back straightaway, trying to hang on as much as he can. Door is still not tight yet. It is still ajar, opening up. Here comes Harlow to third. Turn 3, that's 7th. The third turn is where Harlow has found trouble before, but he's finding success here for 7th place. And with 4 laps to go, this race is still on to the front straightaway. Meanwhile, the second driver in the point standings sees his nearest competitor pulling away in the sunset. But he's trying to muster everything that he can. A fantastic turn 1, a bump in turn 2, trying to get Wilson out of shape as they come to the back straightaway. Stepien is within range. Stepien is there. Stepien swings by the high side on the back straightaway. He'll take away 4th. Stepien could gain 3rd by the time this race is all said and done. Still, Harlow is underneath, trying to make a move on Duran. He's sideways to the inside of 4, saving it, and will stay green. Harlow giving up the track position, and that's going to be a heartbreak for the 6th car. And while the race got good for 4th, Stepien cannot continue to get around Zach Wilson. And that means this race is near to the official point with almost no other changes on the speedway. Stepien, though, is fighting hard to try and scrap 3rd at the end. He finished 4th last week at Sonoma Raceway and using the middle lane to try and regain some momentum as they come to turn 4. 2 laps to go at the Yard of Bricks for Cedric Hunter, who has been by far, other than Jesse Whittington, the most dominant car of the night. 5 miles to go from the Brickyard. This engaged battle is far from over. All the rubber on the front end of Steven Stepien, but in the effort not to give up through 5th gear on the back straightaway, and eyes laser focused to try and steal the last podium spot. Meanwhile, Cedric Hunter, enjoying a 3.1 second lead on the rest of the field, comes across to turn 4, and we'll see the white flag from the Brickyard 312. 1 more to go for the Canadian. Stepien makes his way on by with a beautiful pass in turn 4. And Brandon Banks with 1 more chance to make it a 2-for-1 as they come back to turn 1. But what an absolute night it's been for Cedric Hunter. Drifting away from the rest of this field. Brandon Banks trying to make a move on Zach Wilson for 4th. And it's a night to remember for the 45 of Cedric Hunter. Spun on lap number 2 after starting on the pole. He'll have a cash prize in his hand and a 7th race victory in 2026. There is clear track at the Brickyard for Cedric Hunter, taking his 8th career, dropping the Hammah Cup Series win, and he takes the Brickyard 312. What a night And they're crashing on the back straightaway to celebrate Cedric Hunter on his 8th career, dropping the Hammah Cup Series win, but his 7th of the season, and chasing the all-time wins record in a single campaign set by Lawson Peel in Season 1. Cedric's longest win streak, or rather winless streak this season, has been 2 races at best. And he's always found his way back to the victory circle. And tonight, from the Brickyard, it's 3rd in 2025, and it's a race victory in 2026. Cedric Hunter will visit Droppin the Hammah victory lane for yet another time. And the clear championship favorite continues to extend his odds for the Droppin the Hammah title this year. Celebration for Cedric Hunter over the Art of Bricks. Cardinal sin, but he's enjoying the time anyway, and will shut the car down right at the edge of the fuel window. When we went green, Hunter took the lead away, and he never looked back. What a drive, what a race, and the 45 car on top once again. No one has been able to stop this machine right here. The Canadian on top of the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series world came into tonight with an 8-race buffer, or 8-point buffer rather, on Brandon Banks for the lead. And that lead in the championship will most likely extend once this race comes to its close and the results are put by the admins. So let's look at your unofficial race results from Indianapolis. It is Cedric Hunter with career win number 8, season win number 7. The dominance continues for the Canadian as he takes the Brickyard 312 tonight. Warren Kyle Keith, a solid run to the end. Got the lead stolen from him there late on the restart, and unfortunately could not regain the track position to win this one. He ends up runner-up tonight. Steven Stepien rounds out the top 3. It is at least 4 straight top 5 runs for Warren Kyle Keith this season. Stepien another top 5 run. We'll talk to all 3 of those cars before our night is over here on the KBueno Racing Network. Zach Wilson is 4th. Brandon Banks in the 5 car wraps up the top 5 with Justin Erb, David Duran, Jesse Whittington, Charles Van Schaik in the 23, and Stephen Harlow. We saw him go for a slight spill late in the running in the battle for position. He still recovers to finish in the top 10. Garrett Walden, the rookie in the 43, starts this one pretty deep in the field, but ends up in 11th. Alex Muscarella back in 12th place. Chuck Stevens, Justin Hendry, James Kunkel to the rest of the top 15. And there's where we get into those lap down car territories and drivers that ended up DNF'd in this race. Kevin Roy, 49 laps adrift. Richard Swabley back in 17th. Daniel Holdcroft, Brad Fulham, and Alex Huffman, who did register for the session but did not make it to the green flag tonight. So after a long and winding race through the Brickyard, we welcome you to the KBRN post-race show, and we join Cedric Hunter in victory lane for the 7th time this season. Cedric, I don't know if this feeling ever gets old to you, especially with the season you've had, but to finish 3rd here last season behind your teammate and then Steven Maggio, and to get the win in the Brickyard 312 this time, what are the emotions like for you?
It's good, man. The feeling of winning never goes away. It's a great feeling. Something that I normally don't get to experience this often. So we've put a hell of a season, regular season, I guess, so far together. Only a few races left before the start of the chase, and hopefully we can keep the momentum going, man. It's the car's feeling really good. Just racing's feeling really good, and it's going across multiple leagues for me. Like we're hitting something. Don't exactly know what it is, but man, we're hitting on all cylinders.
And talk to me about how this race kind of turned on its head for you, because kind of like last week, you had a self-spin. This time it was on lap 2 at the exit of turn 3. You regained control as you bounce your way back to the field on strategy. What did that feel like, and how did you adapt to the way this car handled and the conditions of the track to be able to take the control once that restart came out with 40 laps to go to take the lead in for the win?
Yeah, the two races I decided to do a little bit of practice for beforehand. Actually, I spun out in both, so that's an interesting, I guess, fact. I normally don't practice for anything, and obviously it's not working out. I mean, I get good finishes, but the starts are rough. I would say that spinning out at the start of races, if you ask any of my buddies, it's kind of a Cedric thing to do. I unfortunately do it quite often, and then back-to-back weeks. That's something I like doing. Thankfully, I didn't have any damage or anything like that, so we got back going, and I learned a lot, honestly, from just driving through the field and pass or kind of learning how to pass people. It really helped me there for the last run. I would say the last run when the caution came out, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna lose the lead. Going to the green, all I could think about is just stay on Warren's outside, like on his quarter panel or something, man. Just keep a nose there, just because I think if I could stay on his outside down the backstretch, I could probably pull him back with a side draft and hopefully get the lead. And I figured honestly he probably had to save. I think I had about a quarter of a lap to the good when I crossed our finish line. So I figured if I just keep the pressure on him, eventually he has to save fuel. So if I just keep the pressure on him and I don't allow him to be able to save that fuel, then then hopefully it gives me a better shot. And we did find an opening. Had to send it on him there in turn 4, which I wasn't necessarily expecting that to be a method of passing, but it worked out. And then once I got the lead, clean air is fantastic, and we love it, especially at Indy. So that really helped and kind of sealed it away. I was praying every single lap. I was looking at the relative, making sure people weren't racing each other, just to make sure there wasn't a caution. Heartbeat was beating out of my chest there with the 10 and then 5 and then 3 laps to go, and then when I got the white flag, it was so relieving.
So you take the win tonight, but not only is it another race victory to cement the further points lead that you have established this season, but Noble 5 was on the cards tonight. You were one of those 5 drivers eligible for the cash prize, and it takes a winning driver to get the cash prize. You do so here tonight, and you also appear to be right in the front of things to make it past the quarterfinals in the in-season challenge for another cash prize. So other than that, how have the extracurricular incentives with Noble 5 and the in-season challenge, how has that felt as well to be on top of that and also some good momentum in the challenge as well?
Oh, it's huge, man. I mean, we don't do it for the money, but I mean, winning money and we're just winning prizes in general is definitely a bonus. Over the last couple or probably month or two, I've been kind of building a barbecue fund for to buy a barbecue for my backyard. So this will definitely help get me pretty much there. So I guess the big thing, and I have to check. I was really having problems with Trinity Paints with actually getting the banner to work, and so I'm really hoping that on the broadcast it did work. It was kind of hit or miss, and right before the green, I got it to finally appear on my screen. So I'm hoping it'll do the same for you. And then for the in-season challenge, good points nights for myself, and I was kind of looking at where the guys I was competing against, where they finished. I think Stem made a really good pass on 2 guys. I think coming to the white or coming to a few laps to go. So he finished 3rd, so I'm still gonna have to be on it at New Hampshire, and hopefully we can move on to the semis, I think. So yeah, fingers crossed. New Hampshire's gonna be fun though.
And speaking of New Hampshire, a place where last season you had a good start, 6th place, but then just didn't work out for you, finishing 25th. So in the case of that, how do you try and rewrite the luck at New Hampshire and Loudon and try to get a good finish or a win next Sunday?
Yeah, that track just seems like it's every time I go there, it races a little bit differently. Whether it's there's a period of time where the apron worked around both corners, or the very bottom line, or and then it was a very top line. Anyways, it just bounces around. So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of pans out. That track can be very multi-groove racing. Tires are definitely going to matter. The person that I'm going to have to race for the mid-season tournament is Stemp, and he's really, really good there. It's his home track, so I expect him to be really fast. And honestly, I think going into it, top 2 is going to be the goal if I want to move on through the tournament. And I'm interested to see how it pans out.
Well, Cedric, another victory here in the season. You continue to march closer to what is the all-time season win record of 9 set last season. You're at 7 before the regular season is all said and done. Before we let you go on the win here in the Brickyard 312, anyone you want to shout out or thank for the win tonight?
Yeah, man. I want to actually I'll shout out the admins and just the drivers that show up on a weekly basis. I think with the work that these admins and also their own money that they put up, man, we should have easily a field of. I mean, and the great racing that the rest of the guys put on, we should easily have a field of 30 plus guys. So it's unfortunate that we're on the 18 to 20 range, but I know that the real life race when everything was on, but hopefully. Uh, we have a few faces that continue to obviously show up, but also new faces that might come in hopefully over the next couple weeks or whatever. Again, it's a great league, really, really fast guys. Admins are great, and there's good prizes too. So again, for everything that this league has, I'm surprised that it doesn't have more drivers. So other than that, huge shout out to the fans out there for tuning in. Shout out to you, Kenneth, for everything that you do. And thank you to Zach for making me this banner for the Noble 5. I got him kind of scrambling a couple days ago to make it for me last second, so I appreciate his help.
Well, Cedric, always appreciative to talk to you whenever you had the chance to, and another race victory here in 2026. Go celebrate the win here at Indianapolis. Congratulations on the dub, and we'll see you in the field in Loudon, New Hampshire, up in New England, and next Sunday.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good night.
Cedric Connor once again in dropping the Hammah Cup Series victory lane. What a night for the 45, dominating until the very end. And it's second place, another top 3 run. Make that, 4 consecutive top 3 runs for Warren Kyle. Keith Warren, you've been on a tear at the late end of this regular season. It seemed like the strategy flipped out for you in the right way, although it wasn't the win. Tell us your perspective of this race and that final run.
I'm tired of getting taken out of it. Got nudged in 4, and on my end, got nudged up the when he set his nose in there, he hit me and nudged me off the corner. So another time where Cedric gets a win by pushing me out of the way or wrecking me or whatever the case may be. So congrats to him. I'm happy he's got a good win for the 7th freaking time this season. But fuel wasn't an issue at that point. Just kind of after he passed this, and I knew he's got the clean air, I wasn't even going to try to catch him. Just play blocking and block Zach and just get another P2 is the best I can do. And yeah, what a race.
And let's talk a bit about how this car felt. I know you and the admins were working tirelessly to try to make this car more competitive, make it more free, alter the power. You had a custom set tonight, gave drivers plenty of practice time in the days leading up to this race to try and get them acclimated. How did you overall feel about what the setup and the power output felt like, and whether it was a successful one from the eyes of not only a driver, but for an admin who's trying to spice up the racing here at Indianapolis with this car?
On the admin side, I thought we did a fantastic job this week. The setup, thanks to Jason Anderson for helping us out with that setup. He's, again, helped us out on the plate side of things, which hopefully we don't have to reuse now that NASCAR is changing that. But yeah, I thought it was a great car setup combo. The power was just enough where, if you were too greedy with it, you could get it loose and spin it. As you saw, I'm sure, a couple drivers looping it around the night. But at the same time, if you were methodical with it, it was something you could use as a tool. I mean, let's be real, you're not going to fix the dirty air. It's just nothing you're going to do. I mean, we tried, 90% horsepower to kind of, give it like an O'Reilly car feel here with them using the tapered spacers here, kind of like a plate package engine. So we tried that, didn't work. Dirty air just made us all single file plating around here, no one passing each other. So at least in this package, with the track how it was, at least you could make some passes, usually clean. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Is this something we're going to use again? This is just one of those things where it's just Indy, man. And, the next time we go to a mile and a half, we'll be back at 110. And the next time we go to a short track like next week, we're just going to run what iRacing gives us.
Well, speaking of short tracks, we've got that one next, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and a point where you can take over the semifinal spot in this Droppin the Hammah Cup in-season challenge. You had Van Schaik and Erb with you in the quarterfinals. So how does it feel to get the second place finish and have the upper edge in points as you go into New Hampshire to try and advance to the semis?
That's nice. I mean, I know at New Hampshire it's going to be, I don't even know how the car's going to react. Last season, before they did the whole update, the car was just on edge. So I can't wait to go to New Hampshire and see how either tight it is or loose it is. But if it's anything like Phoenix, it might be a really good setup. So good hope for the next week. Obviously, we're back in the swing of things. Looking forward to the chase coming up in 4 weeks now. So I've just starting to plan that out. And if we go through, I'm not a big deal about this challenge thing. If we go to the next round, cool. If not, same logic applies. You just gotta finish the best you can and get as much points as we can, so we can have a good seat in the chase and not have to worry about, freaking Chicagoland and Rockingham to start that thing off. That's going to be a nightmare.
Oh, Warren, at least there's still some positives after tonight, given the circumstances here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And going to be exciting to see how the last 4 weeks come up in this regular season and see where you land and all of that. But, Warren, it was great to talk to you once again. Always a great time speaking with you when I'm trying to carry the lifting here in the broadcast booth. But on behalf of all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on second. Anyone you want to give a shout-out to or thank before the night's done?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the fabricators of the bumpers. And these cars, they build a damn good bumper. Obviously, it's good enough to use. So thank you to them. Thanks to SCAM, scamcars.com. Bass Pro Shops of St. Augustine had a Spider-Man car for this week to get the new movie out here in, I think, July 31st. So that's going to be a good one to go watch. So if you can go watch it, go watch it. It's going to be a hell of a movie. And then also, obviously, if you have a Bass Pro Shops near you, go shop there. Great things at Bass Pro Shops. And then, of course, thank you, Kenneth, for broadcasting. I know your other person isn't here tonight, so I'm sure, again, for another week, it's a lot of heavy lifting, but you're doing a good job, and I appreciate it.
Well, much appreciated for the kind words, Warren. And I did notice, before we let you go, a Spider-Man helmet on the front end. I think I noticed that midway through the race. So a Spider-Man car and a Spider-Man suit, if you will, trying to save the day here at Indianapolis. But in all seriousness, congratulations on the runner-up finish tonight in the Brickyard 312. We'll see you in the field at Loudon, New Hampshire next Sunday.
Yay, see you there.
Warren Kyle Keith in the 24, second place finish. Mixed emotions after the night. Something we definitely expected out of the driver of the 24, but regardless, some good points. And he's the points leader in his group, entering the next race of this in-season challenge. We're now joined by the third place finisher tonight, and that is Steven Stepien, the driver of the number 88 Chevrolet. Steven, what a drive at the end. It was fireworks between yourself and Zach Wilson until the end. A 4-car breakaway with Brandon Banks also involved in that. How did you feel in that restart with 40 laps to go and your chase to third?
I was pissed because I blew through my pit stop. So, came in second, coming out eighth. So that kind of was a bummer on that last pit stop. But I knew I had some speed, and I don't think I made much friends on that last run. I was racing pretty hard. I'm trying to get back up there, but at least we came home third. It's been a while. I don't even know the last time I was up in an interview.
Well, it must have been back second place at Pocono Raceway, so it has been just a little bit of time, but we mentioned during this broadcast in 3 of the last 4 races, you had at least the top 5 runs. So to continue that streak here tonight at Indianapolis, knowing what the regular season has been holding and how crucial the points have been, where do you think you land in all of that momentum-wise as the season has continued and possibly going into one of your best all-time tracks in the sim? How you feel about the way the season's gone so far?
It's been a lot up and down. But I'm looking forward to the second half. Got myself some new pedals today. Didn't have much practice with the new pedals, but the race felt good. Got to tweak some stuff for Loudon next week, and we're feeling good. I'm happy to upgrade my stuff a little bit because it's definitely affected me the last few weeks. But coming to Loudon and hoping to get something done. I'd like to get back into the winner's circle and get some points and get some momentum. We're just trending up. We're trending in the right direction. We're getting the finishes we need, and hopefully that will carry on till the chase.
I was just about to ask you there, Steven. Of course, New Hampshire, New England, and Loudon, New Hampshire coming up. next Sunday, one of your best tracks, then Nashville Superspeedway, and then Richmond. So tracks that seem to, for the most part, land right in your favor as a race car driver. How do you keep that momentum up high, and what's the key to at least try to either get another win there or at least just finish well enough to have high momentum going into Chicagoland when the chase starts?
Well, those two tracks are a beautiful start, Loudon and Nashville. So, we just got to be super aggressive early and get the lead and keep the lead. Just try to keep people behind you because, once you get the lead, it's proven. It's pretty hard for the tail end car to do anything. So, even just being in third, fourth, fifth, working my way up at the end of that last run there, it's tough. 1 second it's tight, 1 second it's loose. So it's you just gotta figure it out. It's a guessing game, but looking forward to Loudon. Just stay up front, get the clean air, and I've done it before, so hopefully next week is a good weekend, and put in a lot of practice this week to dominate my home track. That's basically where to start.
Well, Stephen, a great finish tonight. Third place here at the Brickyard after a long, winding 125 laps. Before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to or thank before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out to Zach and Banks. That was a fun battle in the tail end. That was good stuff. I was sweating at the end of there. That was hella fun, and obviously good job with you guys. Appreciate everything you guys do with the broadcast and the league and all the admins that make this thing possible, and then the whole DTH team, my dad, my wife, my kids. Love them all, and we'll see you in Loudon next week. Homecoming, baby.
All right, Steven. Well, we'll see you at the hometown race one Sunday from now. Congratulations on the third place finish. We'll see you then.
Appreciate it, man.
Steven Sempian wraps up tonight on a third place run here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway and ready to take on his home track next Sunday, July 26th. We are live from New England, Loudon, New Hampshire, and the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. One of the great tracks that gave us a pretty good show last time we were there. But tune in with us on July 26th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. We are coming down to the final few before this regular season is done, and we crown the 12 drivers eligible for the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series chase to race for a championship in 2026. Right now, they are trying to beat Cedric Hunter, who stabilized in the points lead after Sonoma last Sunday, and he continues in that very same mark after tonight is all said and done. What a drive, what a race, a long one from Indianapolis. Thank you so much for joining us on the KBueno Racing Network. On behalf of everyone at the Droppin the Hammah Cup Series, for Steven Sempian, Warren Kyle Keith, Richard Swavely, and the rest of the incredible admin team that makes this series happen each and every week, and for everyone at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Beyer, Francisco Bacallao, Keelan Belsha, Eli Comerford, Nate Polite, and many more, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Indianapolis, where Cedric Hunter gets his 7th race victory of 2026 as the field crunches down the regular season, entering New Hampshire. See you next Sunday.